Chapter 1500. Ding! 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 Refresh after refresh, replace after replace. It was undeniable that after becoming a VIP for a year, there were many good items, but they were either too expensive or not suitable for rapid growth, so he could only replace them by force. Why can't you add a shopping cart function, allowing me to add what I want in advance and buy it when I have money in the future? Jun Changshao was speechless. In your dreams, the system said. Jun Changshao ignored it and continued to refresh. After refreshing more than 10 times, he saw a product called or incubator. He covered his face and said, finally, something useful. The ore incubator was not expensive, only 1 million. The introduction said that it could incubate special ores and increase their growth. Increase? Jun Changxiao's eyes were burning. Wasn't the mother of real stones a special ore? If it was added to increase its growth, wouldn't it be able to produce more eggs? Buy. After thinking for a while, Jun Changxiao spent 1 million contribution points to buy the ore incubator. Previously, he could have bought a lot of 2 to 3 million contribution points equipment, but he did not because it would only benefit him. If this facility could increase the growth of the mother of real stones, it would definitely benefit the entire sect. Jun Changxiao went to the underground palace and took out the ore incubator. The shape of this item was similar to the previous incubator. It had a transparent barrier, and below it were various buttons and LED screens, as well as a dent that seemed to be used to absorb energy. No way. Jun Changxiao was speechless. Does this thing need external energy? Nonsense. The system said, if you want to increase its growth, you have to invest it. Jun Changxiao took out the manual, and after reading it carefully, he confirmed that the ore incubator really needed energy to increase its growth. Fortunately, he could choose crystal cores as the material. Let's give it a try. Jun Changxiao placed the mother of real stones inside the ore incubator, then began to take out crystal cores to charge. He only pressed the start button after using thousands of crystal cores. Beep. 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 Numbers appeared on the LED screen. Item, Mother of Truth Condition, Met Energy, 1% acceleration, 100%. Jun Changxiao hugged his head and roared, thousands of high-level crystal nuclei are thrown in, and the energy is only 1%, and the acceleration is only 100%. The crystal cores that Go Sheng had put in just now were mostly obtained from various forbidden grounds. Their quality was pretty good, and they would definitely be able to exchange for a considerable amount of magnetite if they were to sell them on the market. Hoo. At this moment, the Mother of Truth inside the device emitted a strong heaven and earth attribute, and then merged into the surrounding soil through the vent holes. Accelerating it by 100% meant that the incubation effect was doubled. If this was an ordinary medicinal ingredient, the effect would be pretty good. However, if it was used to cultivate the mother of true stones and allow it to produce true stones faster, it didn't seem to be enough. D. The alarm sounded and a number appeared on the screen. 1% energy can only last for 1 year. Please replenish it in time. Jun Changxiao was speechless. I threw in so many high-level crystal cores, and it only accelerated my time by 1 year. Not bad. The system said, at least it can speed up the nurturing of the mother of true rocks. It's better than the slow gathering speed. That's true. Jun Changxiao took out more crystal cores to recharge. Although a 100% acceleration wasn't much, the Mother of Truth would determine the future development of the sect, so it was better to speed it up. Who? Jun Changxiao threw in all the crystal cores in his spatial ring, and after a fierce operation, the energy increase was only 5%. Damn it! That's way too expensive. At this moment, Go Sheng's eyes widened. The acceleration listed on the LED screen changed from the initial 100% to 500%. Understood. The system said, Every time the energy increases, the acceleration will also increase. From 1% to 100%. If it reaches 100%, it will increase by 10,000%. It should be. That's great. Jun Changshao was instantly excited. If it reached the maximum value, wouldn't it be 100 times faster? The Mother of Truth could easily nurture true stones for thousands of years. If the acceleration was maintained, it could be completed in a few decades. Calm down. Jun Changshao suppressed his excitement and said, the prerequisite is to have crystal cores. With so many crystal cores as the energy source, it only increased by 5%. If it really reached 100% and obtained 10,000% acceleration, would there be enough upper realm monsters? The principle of the ore incubator was similar to that of the incubator. If he wanted to obtain more acceleration, he had to invest crazily. Jun Changshao was still quite satisfied. At least he could obtain crystal cores. If he could nurture more true stones, it could also be an alternative exchange method. Swoosh! He opened the shop again. Jun Changshao found another product at the end of the list. It was called Gene Modification Fluid, so he curiously clicked on the introduction. Item, Gene Modification Fluid Introduction, an epoch-making product from highly developed martial arts and technology. Effect, after consumption, it can forcefully change the user's genes, thus obtaining the special ability of non-human races. Disadvantage, random selection. Price, 2,000 reputation points. Note, purchase limited to 1 per year. Damn! Jun Changshao said in surprise, this is quite strong. The system said, according to the terms of the world of martial arts, it should be similar to bloodline inheritance. It is recommended that the host purchase 10 stars. Jun Changshao fell into a short period of silence. This thing was indeed not bad, but he only had 2,000 reputation points at the moment. The system said, you can give it to Yi Xingqian to let him obtain the ability of a certain race. Perhaps it can greatly increase his realm. Makes sense. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. There was only one chance. If he did not buy it, he would have to refresh it. Moreover, the system said again, this thing can be bought once a year. In the future, when you have reputation points, you can also give it to the upper echelons of the sect or the disciples to use, allowing everyone to have a special bloodline. A real marketing master would use the simplest words to accurately capture the user's psychology and make them palpitate with eagerness. Jun Changshao was tempted. To be honest, this thing might not be effective for him, because he had the bloodline of the stone statue race. It was unknown if he could be compatible with two bloodlines, but many people in the sect did not. If he could use this to benefit them, the 2,000 reputation points would not be wasted. Ding! Host has spent 2,000 reputation points and obtained Gene Modification Fluid X1. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding! Sect reputation points, 0, Jun Changshao bought it and immediately informed Yi Xingqian. Patriarch. Nyo walked in from outside and secretly muttered in his heart. Could it be that the Patriarch has something good for him again? Jun Changshao placed the gene modification fluid on the table and said, drink it. Yi Xingqian was overjoyed. From the shape, this seemed to be the aptitude modification fluid. He had already reached the divine grade spirit root. Could it be that after drinking it, he would have a higher breakthrough? Yi Xingqian hurriedly opened the cork and drank it without any hesitation. The taste of the gene modification fluid was similar to the aptitude modification fluid, but there was a faint fragrance in the mellow malt taste. After drinking it, one would not be satisfied. No. His aptitude did not increase. Hoo. Just as Nyo was thinking, a majestic aura emerged from his body and instantly filled his entire body. It even seeped into his blood, as if it was burning directly. A heart-wrenching pain instantly spread. That kind of heat gathered in every inch of his skin, making him scream like a pig being slaughtered with a hideous expression. What's going on? This voice. It's junior brother Yi. Let's go. Swish. Swish. Everyone flew to the Dragon Head Peak. As soon as they landed outside the courtyard where the patriarch lived, they all opened their eyes wide and blurted out, "Oh my God." Chapter 1501. When Yi Xingqian consumed the genetic fluid, the blood in his body burned instantly, bringing him extreme pain. His face turned completely hideous. "Ah no!" Jun Changshao exclaimed. The system said, "No need to worry. He should be fusing with the bloodline." It was the same when the host awakened the stone statue race. Jun Changshao was silent. Ah! Yi Xingqian screamed again. At this moment, no one could help him. He could only rely on himself to get through this. If he succeeded, he would obtain a special bloodline. If he failed, he would probably lose his name. Did he regret it? No. Yi Xingqian did not regret it. Even if he knew in advance that consuming the genetic fluid would cause him to experience such pain and torture, he would still drink it without hesitation. This was because the strong were never afraid of death. Ah no! Jun Changshao encouraged him in his heart, "Hang in there." Ah! 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 Screams sounded frequently, making one's hair stand on end. At the same time, the blood in his body transformed rapidly, deeply stimulating the depths of his soul. His eyes gradually turned red, and strange patterns appeared on his exposed skin. The system said, "It's about to fuse. Come on, come on." Jun Changshao clenched his fists and cheered for the system. From his expression, it seemed that he was more nervous than awakening his bloodline. Yi Xingqian could no longer hear anything. The pain and torture had caused him to lose his sense of hearing. As he gradually endured it, his mind and soul were about to collapse. Whing! The scene in front of him suddenly changed, and the pain gradually subsided. Yi Xingqian stood in a seemingly ordinary village with a stunned expression. He said in surprise, "Illusion. Come and chase me." Suddenly, a voice came from behind him. Yi Xingqian looked back and saw an ordinary teenager running over on the muddy road after the rain. He was holding a broken kite in his hand. Whoosh! The kite passed through his body, and his figure became illusory. As expected, this was an illusion. Yi Xingqian could see the teenager as a bystander, but the teenager could not detect his existence. Pei Nyo. At this moment, a delicate girl ran over on the muddy road, stomping her feet and shouting, "Stop! Pei Nyo." Jun Changshao was shocked and hurriedly looked back. Soon, he realized that the young man's silhouette and appearance were very similar to the guy he had taken over. Realization dawned on him. Could this be his youth? Wait a minute. The girl also looked very familiar. Yi Xingqian suddenly thought of something and frowned. Come and chase me. If you catch me, I'll return the kite to you," the young man shouted as he ran with a playful smile on his face. Plop! The girl fell to the ground, splashing mud all over her face. Ha ha ha! The young man laughed and said, "You've become a big tabby cat." The young girl wiped away the mud on her face, and bean-sized tears slid down her cheeks. "Why are you crying?" The young man walked over and helped her up. He placed the kite on top of her head and said, "Here you go." No. The girl threw the kite into the mud and left in anger and grievance. The young man shouted, "I was just joking, don't be angry." As expected. That girl was Yi Xingqian frowned and said, "This should be the experience of their youth, but why can I see it?" Phew! An intense pain surged into his mind, causing him to subconsciously hug his head. Swish! Suddenly, the scene changed again. He was already in a dark forest. The young man, Nyo, was holding a big wooden stick and was confronting a wild wolf. The young girl, was hiding behind him in fear. Nyo, I'm scared. Don't be afraid, I'll protect you. In the end, he was scratched by the wild wolf. Fortunately, the village hunters arrived in time to save the two of them. In order to not be scolded for using memories to make up the number of words, in short, these two scenes represented that the young man, Nyo, and the young girl, had gradually developed feelings for each other. However, Yi Xingchen was very puzzled. Why could he see what these two had experienced? Could it be that the guy who was taken over, when his soul was destroyed, part of his memory was integrated into his soul? Swish! Swish! The scene continued to change, and it was all related to the young man, Nyo, and the young girl, Buzz. After a while, the scene changed to Pei Nyo's coming-of-age ceremony. He stood in front of who was shorter than him by a head, and grinned, "When you become an adult, I'll marry you." Brother Nyo. Hui's little face blushed. Of course. Pei Nyo pointed to the green ox tied to a tree in the distance and said, "I will use it to marry you home and make you happy for the rest of your life." The sons of rich families often rode tall horses or palanquins to marry their wives, while the ordinary families mostly used donkeys or oxen. Puchi. Covered her mouth and laughed, saying, "Brother Nyo, are you unable to leave the ox?" Pei Nyo walked over, grabbed her little hand, and said seriously, "I'm willing to be your ox for the rest of my life." Bull. 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 Yi Xingchen's ears kept repeating, and the pain that had subsided erupted again, causing him to hug his head again. In the outside world, people were kneeling on the ground, and the patterns on their skin were getting brighter and brighter. Ah! Roar! A deafening roar suddenly sounded. Swish! Swish! At this moment, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had already arrived at Dragon Head Peak. When they saw everything in the courtyard, they all widened their eyes, because what appeared in their field of vision was actually a green ox. Nanny! Jun Changshao also opened his mouth. As an eyewitness, he saw with his own eyes 2 ox horns grow out of Yi Xingchen's forehead, and then he quickly transformed from a human into an ox. Genetic modification successful, the system said. Jun Changshao spread his legs, pointed at the green ox, and roared with a collapsing expression, transforming from a human into an ox. What kind of genetic modification is this? Does the host think this is an ordinary ox? The system said indifferently. What? Jun Changshao continued to roar, "Don't tell me it's the green ox that I rode out of Hanggu Pass. If it's really my mount, then this disciple of yours is really awesome. After all, in terms of combat power, he might not be inferior to a great sage," the system said. At this moment, the green ox suddenly enlarged, and the courtyard was destroyed. Jun Changshao ran out in time, but Li Qingyang clutched his chest with a pained expression. "This loss is even greater than the training ground." Roar! The green ox, which was about 100 feet long, roared loudly, and the energy it contained shook the space. So strong. Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. Gu Xiaoxi had also rushed over, and he said in surprise, "What kind of ox is this?" Ox? That's right. Gu Xiaoxi instantly judged from the aura and power it exuded, and it was definitely not an ordinary ox. It should be from a certain tribe that was awakening at this moment, so it revealed its true form. Brother Nyo, in the peak where the disciples lived, saw a huge ox suddenly appear on Dragon Head Peak, and tears flowed down her face uncontrollably. Why was she crying? Because this green ox was exactly the same as the ox that Pei Nyo had mentioned back then. "I waited for you to marry me, but we were already separated by heaven and earth." Roar! The huge green ox standing on Dragon Head Peak roared angrily, and then it leaped up and landed on Spirit Beast Peak. Its crimson eyes locked onto the Purple King, who was sitting in front of the hall entrance. Heh! Hall Master Z stood up, took off his school uniform, and shook his head. What, you want to fight with me? Chapter 1502. The drunk Yixingchen liked to visit the Spirit Beast Peak. Now that he had awakened his bloodline and transformed into his true form, he still went to the Spirit Beast Peak. It was truly thought-provoking. If there was a need to explain, it might be that he was now a demonic beast and had a strong perception of his own kind. King. Elder Nyo said cautiously, this guy isn't simple. As the right-hand man of Hall Master Z, his true form was also a bull beast. But in front of Yixingchen, he instantly felt insignificant. This insignificance came from the absolute suppression of the bloodline. Elder Nyo was just an ordinary beast of the falling star continent. Even if his cultivation level had increased, there was still a huge gap between him and the noble races. I can see it. The Purple King was very indifferent. This green bull was definitely not an ordinary beast. It might be from a large bull race. But so what? This king was the one and only Dao transformation Kuan. Hall Master Z was a little proud. In terms of species and bloodline, it wasn't inferior to the major races. In fact, it was even rarer than the dragon race and the stone statue race. Then, had it recovered its strength? Not only had it recovered, but it was also much stronger than before. It was already at the 7th or 8th revolution of the core revolution realm. How did it steal dragon eggs with such a cultivation level? Once again, Z's true form was the purple firmament Dao transformation Kuan. It could escape into the void and do it silently. As the saying went, there was a fish in the north, and it was called the Kuan. The Kuan was so big that it couldn't be stewed in a pot. Roar! Yixingchen, who had transformed into the green bull, roared furiously again. It emitted an aura that contained intense battle intent. The Purple King, who had taken off his clothes, raised his hand and wore the pink boxing gloves. He said proudly, "You dare to take the initiative to provoke me. I admire your courage." Huff! Right at this moment, the green bull suddenly stood up. It was originally in the form of a bull, but it gradually became more human-like. The only thing that didn't change was that its head and body were still that of a beast. Damn! Jun Changxiao widened his eyes and said, "Bull Demon King." When a bull stood up, it looked similar to a human. It really gave off the feeling of a bull demon king. What made Jiang Yi break down the most was that after Yixingchen stood up, it actually assumed a battle form. Its two hooves looked like boxing gloves. The Purple King's mouth twitched. This was the first time he had seen a beast in its true form fighting in its human form. Who? Right at this moment, Yixingchen swung his forelimbs and came crashing down. The force of the explosion was like the weight of Mount Tai. Not good. Hall Master Z's expression changed slightly. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. It was as though a hoof that weighed 5,000 kilograms was pressing down on the martial arts stage, causing the entire Spirit Beast Peak to tremble violently. Very strong. Gu Zhaoxi frowned. It would be very troublesome for him to take such an attack head-on. A smile gradually appeared on Jun Changxiao's face. The effects of the genetic modification fluid were very powerful. Yixingchen transformed into a green ox, and his battle prowess had clearly increased by a terrifying amount. However, is he sober now? If his disciple lost their rationality after obtaining absolute power, the gains would not make up for the losses. The system said, he is now in the state of bloodline awakening. After some time, he should be able to recover his original appearance. In other words, after the genetic modification, it is equivalent to having a trump card to transform into a green ox? Jun Changxiao asked. Correct. Boom 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 boom. There were continuous explosions on Spirit Beast Peak. Li Qingyang had a painful expression. Such a huge commotion would definitely bring about unimaginable destruction. As expected. When the green ox stopped and the dust gradually dispersed, the entrance of the Spirit Beast Hall had collapsed. The martial arts stage had sunk a few meters like the bottom of a dried lake. Where was Hall Master Z? He was lying in the deepest part of the pit with a bloody nose and a swollen face. His fingers and toes were twitching. When the two hooves came crashing down, he didn't have time to escape and could only be dealt with from all angles. To put it simply, he was KO'd by a series of moves. Trash. The green ox opened its mouth and spoke in human language. This line, this intonation, it's him, it's him, it's him, our little night melon. Jun Changshao let out a breath of relief. Since the green ox could speak, it meant that it still had its mind and didn't lose its rationality. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi exclaimed, this disciple of yours isn't simple. He actually has an extremely powerful ox bloodline. During this period of time in the sect of all times, he might be surprised by the strength of many disciples, but he wasn't truly shocked. Today, Yi Xingqian's performance didn't just shock him, it was an extremely intense kind. Brother. Jun Changshao said, you must learn to be calm in the future because there are many unimaginable things waiting for you. Many more. Many more. The corner of Gu Zhaoxi's mouth twitched violently. In any case, he was an incredible person who had reincarnated countless times. After coming to the sect of all times, everything he saw and experienced had completely overturned his understanding of martial arts. Phew. Right at this moment, the giant green ox standing on Spirit Beast Peak leaned towards the peak of the disciples' residence. Ah Nyo, what are you doing? Jun Changshao frowned and asked. It wasn't a problem for Hall Master Z to be beaten up 1,000 times, but he definitely wasn't allowed to lay his hands on his fellow disciples. Phew. Yi Xingqian leaned his ox head against the peak. His red eyes were flickering, but they would occasionally dim as though he was having an intense struggle. Brother Anyo, is that you? Hui asked with a trembling voice. Phew. Phew. The green ox's breathing was rapid, and his red eyes revealed a human-like pain. He then stretched out his right hoof with difficulty and gently touched the woman's face to wipe away her tears. With a hoarse voice, he said, I'm sorry. I let you down. Jun Changshao, who wanted to stop this, was instantly stunned in midair. This voice and this tone were completely different from Yi Xingqian's style. It felt as though he was a different person. There is only one situation, the system said. What situation? Yi Xingqian reincarnated and possessed Pei Anyo. Their souls fused together, and after the bloodline awakening, he awakened a part of Pei Anyo's soul, the system said. Jun Changshao asked in astonishment, then he is now. He is Yi Xingqian and Pei Anyo, the system said. Jun Changshao remained silent. No wonder he could say such strange words to Hui. It turned out that Pei Anyo's soul was controlling his body. Damn it, right at this moment, an unresigned voice came from the deep pit of the Spirit Beast Peak. Gu Zhaoxi was startled and quickly released his spiritual perception. He saw Hall Master Z lying at the bottom of the pit with a dense purple attribute and strange patterns. Hu. Hu. All of a sudden, a majestic aura emerged from the Spirit Beast Peak. A giant purple shadow appeared and slowly turned from a blurry state to a solid state. It looked like a fish fin with red underpants hanging from the tip. It's here. Z's original body. This is, Gu Zhaoxi widened his eyes and said, Purple Firmament Dao Transformation Kun. My brother is right. There are still many surprises. I have to. Who can teach me how to quickly calm down? Roar. The Purple King, who had transformed into its original body, roared furiously. It was obvious that it was very unhappy about being oppressed just now. Roar! The green bull's eyes flickered with red light again as it retracted its body and roared. At this moment, one of the beasts was standing on the peak while the other was suspended in midair. They roared at each other and felt like, "What are you looking at? What's wrong with looking at you? Try looking at me again. Let's try. Go out and fight." Jun Changshao shouted. Hu. Hu hu hu. Z and Nyo ran out. Boom. Boom. In the depths of the 10,000 ancient immortal mountains, a bull and a kuan were engaged in an intense battle. Although the scenes that appeared were nothing more than you punching nigh attacking with a tail, the battle was extremely brilliant. This continued until a few hours later, both of them turned into human forms and fainted on the ground. Chapter 1503. Z, who was in his original form, did not lose to Nyo, who was in his awakened form. In the end, both of them fainted together. In fact, they did not have any fans at all. Patriarch. In the medical hall. After a careful inspection, Sun Bukong took off his mask and said, "There's no problem. He just needs to rest for a while." N. Jun Changshao ordered people to carry Yixingchen and Hall Master Z back to their respective residences. Then, he held his chin and pondered. If Pei Nyo's soul existed, wouldn't the two of them be sharing the same body? It's hard to say. The system said, perhaps Pei Nyo's soul can only obtain a part of the control when he uses his bloodline to transform. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Poor Hui, her." This girl had long become a disciple of the sect. Although she did not appear often, she had always been diligent in her cultivation. Occasionally, she would go to the cafeteria to help out. She was very hardworking and virtuous. At first, Gosheng thought that Yixingchen might have lost his memory and forgotten his fiancée, so he tried to matchmake the two of them. It was only later that he realized that his body had been taken over. No matter what, Yixingchen harmed Nyo and caused Hui, to lose her fiancé. System. Jun Changshao said, "Can you make up for it?" His disciple's rebirth had implicated a life and destroyed a couple. Although this might not be much in the cruel world of martial arts, now that he knew that the soul was still there, he really wanted to do something. The system said, in theory, a dead person can't be revived. But if the soul still exists, there might be a chance. For example, the resurrection plan of the demon ancestor. Jun Changshao's eyes lit up. That's right. This was an example. This meant that as long as the soul was still there was still a possibility of revival. Jun Changshao wanted to make up for Yixingchen's mistake. He wanted to do something, and that was to revive Pei Nyo, whose soul might still exist, so that the lovers could finally get married. However, the system said, it's very difficult. Jun Changshao could not deny this. If resurrection was an easy task, then the demon ancestor who had fallen 100,000 years ago would not have left behind the land of demonic affinity, and would not have relied on the blood and souls of so many demonic cultivators. Nothing in this world is impossible for those who set their mind to it. Jun Changshao encouraged himself, even if there's only a 0.01 chance, there's still hope. A few days later, Yixingchen woke up from his coma and locked himself in his room, refusing to go out. He remembered everything that had happened after his bloodline had awakened, especially the words he had said when he had uncontrollably approached Hui. It's not me. This isn't me. Yixingchen clenched his fists, his eyes flashing with complex emotions. In his previous life, he had been schemed against by Empress Lingyao, causing his heart to be completely sealed off. He would not allow any emotions to appear, and he would not say anything mushy. Actually, if the system could guess that Pei Nyo's soul had not disappeared, Yixingchen could naturally guess it as well. But so what if he knew? There was no way to erase it. He could only allow it to hide in the depths of his soul. No. I have to think of a way to erase the remnant soul. Yixingchen could feel that his state of mind had changed after his bloodline had awakened. He would even occasionally think of Hui-er. It was very likely that the original owner's soul was causing trouble. I still want revenge, I still want to kill my enemy. How could I let a remnant soul control my thoughts? How could I be infatuated with the feelings between men and women? Yixingchen's eyes and heart gradually became cold and resolute. The weak soul attack had failed, and he could only curl up in the corner. Sister Hui-er, are you okay? Lu Wancher carried the dishes into the room and asked worriedly. Brother Aniu is still alive. He's not dead yet. Hui-er muttered to herself. So. Lu Wancher passed the hot fried rice over and smiled, all the more you should fill your stomach. You can't starve your body. An. Hui-er wiped away the tears on her cheeks and took the fried rice, eating it in big bites. She had been hungry for a few days, so she ate with relish. Lu Wancher sat on the side and watched her finish before leaving the room. She frowned and said, Patriarch, Sister Hui-er is so pitiful. Jun Changshao said, at least I have something to think about now. Although he wanted to revive Pei Aniu as soon as possible, this kind of thing required great luck. Therefore, he could only allow the two souls to be squeezed into one body for now. Sigh. The system sighed, for the disciple, the host is really worried. The matter between Yixingchen and Pei Aniu was not within the scope of the sect becoming stronger, but Jun Changshao took it seriously. It could be seen that in the aspect of being a patriarch, some people really could not be slandered. He had to apologize quickly. What are you looking at? I'm talking about you. Boom. Boom. Inside the life and death secret realm, Yixingchen crazily attacked the demonic beasts. His entire body seemed to have turned into a mad bull. Li Qingyang and the others who followed him in were all dumbfounded. Second senior brother. Su Xiaomua sent a sound transmission, Junior brother Yi is so angry, is it because of the awakening of the green bull bloodline? As for what kind of bloodline Yixingchen had awakened, it was still a mystery for the time being. Therefore, everyone could only combine it with his previous form and define it as the green bull bloodline. Li Qingyang shook his head, and said, it's more like he's venting. Boom. Boom. Yixingchen crazily attacked for a period of time, until all the demonic beasts were killed. Only then did he stand on the spot, panting. The difficulty of this experiential learning was relatively high. Li Qingyang and the others were all taken care of by him before they could make a move. It could be seen that after awakening the unknown bloodline, his combat strength had indeed increased greatly. To be exact. After consuming the gene modification liquid, even if he did not activate the body transformation, this guy's blood, meridians, and muscles all contained a rather primitive power. Combined with the energy core in his dantian, he could achieve an explosive effect. Come. Yixingchen turned his head and said proudly, let's fight. Li Qingyang and Su Xiaomua's expressions were wonderful. Half an hour later. Everyone walked out of the life and death secret realm. Except for Yixingchen, all of them had crooked noses and slanted eyes. Boom. On the training field, the sound of fists suddenly rang out, rolling up waves of air. Thump, thump, thump. He Woody staggered back more than 10 steps before he could stabilize his body. His hands were numb. Huff, huff. In front of him, Yixingchen stood proudly. He gathered the surrounding energy and gradually outlined the shape of a huge bull beast. He said lightly, trash. He Woody was shocked, this guy's progress is too fast. A few months ago, Yixingchen's strength was not as good as his. Today, a few months later, he could absolutely suppress him. This fully proved the importance of cheating. At the same time, he could confidently shout, among the disciples of the sect, I, Anyo, am the strongest. Not enough. Standing in the distance and watching the battle, Jun Changshao shook his head and said, not enough. Although her realm had increased by 2 levels, although she had the Blue Nyo bloodline, after all, Empress Ling Yao had reached the 9 transformation Dan stage and even had the possibility of entering the truth-seeking stage. So, she had to work harder. Patriarch Yi Xingchen said, I want to go out and gain experience. Okay. Jun Changshao agreed. Cultivating in the sect was like a flower in a greenhouse. Only by going out could one experience the storm. On the same day, Yi Xingchen left the sect of all times. Next, the camera would focus on him. No way. Chapter 1504. Although the sect had all kinds of martial arts facilities and real stones, Yi Xingchen still chose to go there. After all, one had to experience life and death on the path of the strong. It was strange. When he left the sect and stepped into a forest, he felt the fragrance of the grass and his heart calmed down a lot. Obviously, this was because of his bloodline. At this time, if Yi Xingchen suddenly squatted down to eat grass, no one would be surprised. After all, his body was a big green ox. Wasn't it normal to eat grass to replenish his nutrition? Where should I go? He took out the map and thought about it. Ordinary mountain training would definitely not satisfy Yi Xingchen. He needed to pursue extreme excitement, such as, the Forbidden Area. Demon Ox Mountain. Yi Xingchen saw a forbidden area on the map, so he made a decision, let's go here. From the name alone, it should be related to ox beasts. It was just right for his newly awakened green ox bloodline. Shwa! The 7-color dazzling light wings opened and turned into a stream of light and flew away. A few days later, Yi Xingchen appeared at the periphery of Demon Ox Mountain. At this moment, a large number of rogue cultivators had gathered at the entrance. Some had formed teams and were rubbing their hands and rubbing their palms. Some were still recruiting teammates. Brother. A weak martial artist with a pointy mouth and monkey cheeks came over and smiled, are you interested in forming a team? Get lost. Simple and neat. As expected of my brother Ox. The weak martial artist was rebuffed and could only leave resentfully. In his heart, he said unhappily, what are you talking about? Yi Xingchen's arrival made the atmosphere at the entrance of the forbidden area slightly cold. Because he did not release any martial arts aura, but invisibly emitted a special aura. Very strong. Everyone evaluated in their hearts. Little brother. At this moment, a beautiful woman walked over. She blinked her eyes and said, can you bring me in? Are you talking to me? Yi Xingchen said. Yes. Boom, caught off guard, the cold fist directly hit the woman's abdomen. Her whole body exploded and then fell upside down on the distant wall with disheveled hair. Remember. Yi Xingchen retracted his fist and said, don't bother me. Jun Changxiao's previous behavior was known as a straight man of steel. Anyo's current behavior could be called a beast of steel. Too ruthless. All the cultivators began to discuss in low voices, their eyes filled with dread. In the world of martial arts, women were also considered to be a vulnerable group. Since they were so ruthless in their attacks, they would definitely treat men even more cruelly. They absolutely could not be provoked. You, the woman clutched her stomach and said in pain, just you wait. Roar. Roar. At this moment, a series of angry roars came from the mountains. It sounded like the cry of a cow. We can go in now. Go. Martial artists from all walks of life swarmed in. As a third-class forbidden area, the Demon Ox Mountain was different from other places. Only the appearance of the Demon Ox beast inside would arouse everyone's interest. Otherwise, they would be too lazy to enter. Why? Because there were no natural treasures in the mountains, the greatest wealth was the bull demons. Their fur, flesh, and bones could be sold for a good price, especially their crystal cores, which could be used to forge armor. In the past, when people went to the forbidden area, they would describe it as exploring, because the resources inside needed to be carefully searched. Martial artists who went to the Demon Ox Mountain would describe it as hunting, because the more they killed here, the more resources they would obtain. Shua. Yi Xingqian walked in. The other martial artists were in groups, and there were at least 5 of them, but he was alone. Despicable guy. The beautiful woman who was punched gritted her teeth and said, "This grudge, I will get my revenge sooner or later." After saying that, she turned and left. Huh. At this moment, a group of martial artists came from afar. The leader was a bald middle-aged man. He grinned and said, "Isn't this Wei San Yang? Why are you injured?" "Brother Biao." The beautiful woman's eyes lit up. She was worried about how to find that guy for revenge, but she immediately met an old acquaintance. Demon Ox Mountain. In a mountain forest with a decent scale, there were sunken footprints everywhere. From the shape, it was obvious that they were hooves. Boom! Boom! Demon beasts that looked like yaks charged in groups. Thick trees were knocked down, and huge rocks were shattered into pieces. Stop them. Don't let them escape. Quick, quick, quick. The martial artists who came in gradually began to get busy. Some of them were driving the herd, some were setting up traps. Soon, they saw that the demon beasts were either alone or caught in a net, becoming prey to be slaughtered. Yi Xingqian, who was passing by, turned a blind eye to it. These demon beasts were not strong. Most of them were at the void-piercing realm. Since he needed experience, he would definitely go deeper to challenge the higher-level ones. Of course. Although he had the blood of the Azure Ox, it did not mean that he was an ox. In fact, it was just a scientific inheritance of some kind of bloodline. He was still a human, so he would not be sad or angry because of the death of the demon beasts. Shua! 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 Just as he was about to leave this area and step into the deeper area, dozens of martial artists in uniform suddenly rushed from behind. Ah Nyo was surrounded. The loose martial artists who were hunting turned around to look. From the way they dressed, they were sure that this was the werewolf mercenary group. The leader was Zhang Debiao, known as Brother Biao. Look! And Wei San Yang. I heard that this woman had an intimate relationship with Zhang Debiao. This time, she is probably here to take revenge. Everyone looked at Yi Xingqian sympathetically. It would be difficult to get out of Demon Ox Mountain after provoking such a vicious woman. All the loose martial artists in this area knew that Wei Sanyang was good at using her beauty to get the resources and connections she wanted. Provoking her was like provoking the king of hell. Damn you! Wei Sanyang said angrily, "You dare to hit me. You must die here today." Zhang Debiao stopped in front of Yi Xingqian and looked at him with his head tilted. Then he spat out the grass in his mouth and said, "Boy, what's the point of hitting a woman? Come, come." He moved his face closer and said, "Hit me if you can." Pa! Yi Xingqian waved his hand. In slow motion, Zhang Debiao's face tilted. Teeth and blood flew out slowly. Stretching his face out for others to hit. Such a strange request. Jun Changshao had never seen it before. Plop! Zhang Debiao landed on the ground and slid for more than 30 meters. His head hit a rock and a clear handprint could be seen on his face. His subordinates were stunned for a few seconds. When they realized that their boss was really hit, they channeled their strength into their weapons and slashed at him. A bunch of trash. Yi Xingqian's hands surged with true spirit energy, forming a net that could be seen with the naked eye. It enveloped all the werewolf mercenary group martial artists. He said coldly, "Die. Rank 4. This guy is rank 4. The martial artists in the distance exclaimed. While speaking, the tyrannical true spirit energy had already controlled all the werewolf mercenary group members, forcing them to stand on the spot. They could only face death with fear. No. Pucci. Pucci. The true spirit energy turned into sharp swords, mercilessly harvesting their heads. Wei Sanyang was so scared that she fell to the ground. She was destined not to be able to stand up again because Yi Xingqian turned around and looked at her from the side with an eagle-like gaze. Killing intent surged, cold-blooded and emotionless. Don't kill me, Pucci. The true spirit energy turned into a spear and pierced through her chest. The system said, as expected of the cold and emotionless Night Emperor. You are still merciless to women. I admit defeat. Jianghu Jie roared, can you not jump out and spit on me? Shua. Zhang Debiao did not care about his subordinates. He ran away as fast as he could. Pucci. However, not long after he ran, a rainbow light flew from behind and pierced through the back of his head. His body slowly stopped. Before his thoughts were interrupted, how many lines did he say from the moment he appeared to the moment he received his lunchbox? Chapter 1505. In a short period of time, the werewolf mercenaries had been completely annihilated. This scene was seen by the martial artists in the distance and they were all frightened. As expected. This was truly a ruthless person. Seeing Wei Sanyang and Zhang Debiao being killed, the monkey-faced martial artist who was originally unhappy quickly suppressed all the bad thoughts in his heart. After taking care of the trash, Yi Xingqian took away all the spatial rings before turning around and walking towards the deepest part of the forest. Who is he? From the aura just now, he is like a demonic beast. Everyone would not forget that when Yi Xingqian attacked, whether it was the eruption of his true spirit or his eyes, it was very terrifying. It was like a terrifying demonic beast that had walked out of the mountains. The werewolf mercenaries is finished just like that. Serves them right. Zhang Debiao's strength was not bad as he had reached the second revolution of the revolving core realm. He was very arrogant in this area and even asked for protection fees. Now that he had kicked an iron plate and was killed, everyone had the thought of setting off firecrackers to celebrate. As for Wei Sanyang, there was no need to talk about her. She often used her beauty to earn resources. As long as a martial artist followed her into the forbidden area, they would not have a good ending. Ho! Ho! At this time, roars came from the depths of the forest and the ground began to shake violently. All the martial artists' faces changed. From the sound of the commotion, it seemed like an even larger group of demonic beasts was about to charge out. Retreat! Everyone quickly made the right choice and ran out. But when they reached a relatively safe area, they could still hear the roars and the ground shaking, but there were no demonic beasts charging out. What is the situation? Wait. There are sounds of fighting. Let's go. A martial artist said, let's go in and take a look. There were still quite a few brave ones. They carefully retraced their steps until they passed through the bushes and saw Yi Xingqian, who was wearing the war god set and holding the heavenly halberd, fighting hundreds of bull beasts. The scene was magnificent. See! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They had only been here for a few seconds, but with one move, dozens of demonic beasts at the first revolution of the revolving core realm were instantly dismembered. Ho! Ho! The demonic beasts let out roars of fear. They were scared. They were terrified. However, they didn't have time to run away because the human warrior with the noble aura jumped over and killed their companions as if he was cutting grass. An hour later. The trees in this area were all broken, forming a large open area. The corpses of bull monster beasts were strewn all over the ground, and their blood had gathered into a river. If an ignorant martial artist were to see this, they would definitely think that this was a large-scale slaughterhouse. This is too scary. This is simply the devil. Seeing Yi Xingqian collecting fur, bones, and crystal cores one by one, the warriors hiding in the distance suddenly shuddered. The sun set in the west. Yi Xingqian walked out of Demon Ox Mountain with some blood on him. The training this time wasn't exciting, but he had obtained quite a lot of resources. When he returned, he could hand them over to the sect. In the past, when he went out to train with Xiao Ziji in the lower realm, he had tried to hide the crystal cores. Now that he could think this way, it could be said that he had really changed a lot. If Jun Changshao knew about this, he would definitely sigh with gratification. I didn't waste a large amount of true stones and resources to make you stronger faster. On the way, Yi Xingqian took out the map again, and chose a training ground. Thus, the surrounding forbidden areas welcomed demons, and the surrounding lone cultivators welcomed monsters. Because wherever he went, there would always be a huge scene, a huge battle. This was only the beginning. Yi Xingqian still had a long way to go, especially when Empress Ling Yao was too strong. He had to put in several times, or even 100 times more effort than ordinary people. A month later, he was tired of entering the third-grade forbidden areas, and set his sights on the second-grade forbidden areas. This was a very bold decision. After all, Jun Changshao, who had rank 6 cultivation level, had once brought everyone there, and they had almost died in Death Soul Valley. Thus, good luck to the bull. Sect of all times. Li Luoqiu came to report daily, saying, "Patriarch, Yi Xingqian seems to be planning to enter the second-grade forbidden area." This guy, Jun Changshao, shook his head. He is a little arrogant. He did not order anyone to stop Yi Xingqian from going to the second-grade forbidden area. After all, his awakened bloodline could fight evenly with the Purple King. His strength was not bad. Meal time. Jun Changshao came to the dining hall as usual, and immediately smelled the pungent spicy aroma. He drooled and said, "Lass, you made spicy fish head today." Patriarch. Yao Menjin smiled at the kitchen entrance. "You came at the right time. Senior Sister Lu made a very special dish." Special dish? Jun Changshao was a little stunned. Not long after, a bowl of spicy and sesame peppers was served. He said, "Isn't this spicy fish head? What's so special about it?" Patriarch. Lu Wanshi smiled, "Try it." Jun Changshao hurriedly became vigilant, and kept a distance from the dish, saying, "Could it be that you have food poisoning after eating your new dish?" Go Sheng would not forget the first time he ate her new dish, and then was carried to the medical hall's intensive care unit for emergency treatment. Patriarch. Lu Wanshi curled her lips. "This is all in the past, can we not talk about it? Besides, after learning from Elder Wei, the new products I developed are all not poisonous." That's true. Jun Changshao sat down, picked up the chopsticks and said, "How do you eat it normally?" Let me try it." Jun Changshao picked up a piece of fish, but did not eat it immediately. Instead, he shouted, "Sun Bukong, quickly come over. With a doctor here, they should be able to save him at any time." A moment later, Sun Bukong rushed over. Seeing that the situation was not right, he immediately called for a medical team. They stood at the back, holding all kinds of medical equipment. As long as the patriarch lay down, they would immediately take action. Everything was okay. Jun Changshao was relieved and boldly put the fish into his mouth. After tasting it for a while, the taste instantly filled his mouth, and his entire face quickly turned red like blood. Spicy. Numb. The kind that went deep into the bone marrow. Ha! Ha! Jun Changshao hurriedly opened his mouth and exhaled, saying, "Water." This kind of spicy taste made him feel like he was about to spit fire. However, at this moment, not only did Jun Changshao feel the numbness, he also realized that the blood in his body seemed to be burning, and even the true spirit force in his dantian began to boil. Erupt. I want to erupt. This kind of thought filled Go Sheng's sea of consciousness. Shua! Suddenly, Jun Changshao rushed out of the cafeteria and stood on the martial arts field. His entire face was still as red as blood, and wisps of white smoke came out from his pores. What's going on? Because it was mealtime, many disciples were rushing over. When they saw that the patriarch's skin was red and his entire body seemed to have turned into a chimney, they all stopped in their tracks in shock. Husband. Rose of Flowers walked over and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Ta. At this moment, Jun Changshao took a step back with his right foot, bent down slightly, placed his hands on his right waist, and shouted, "Kamehameha." Hoo-hoo. The true spirit force in his palms crazily surged, and with the help of his arms, it suddenly pushed out, instantly forming a super-strong energy beam that extended all the way out of the everlasting immortal mountain, as if it had the power to rush into the clouds. Chapter 1506. Ha! Ha! Outside the cafeteria, Jun Changshao opened his mouth and breathed out. The spicy taste was still there, but his face was gradually recovering from its red color. Just now, there seemed to be a surge of power in his body, and he could not wait to blast it out. It formed a light beam similar to an energy wave, and the scene was spectacular. Without a doubt, it was related to Lu Wansher's dish. After ascending to the upper realm, the overall strength of the upper echelons and disciples had obviously improved. As a genius in culinary arts, it was natural that they would not stop there. Therefore, they had been researching new cuisines and new products. The power that the host blasted out just now is 40% higher than usual, the system said. So high. Jun Changshao was stunned. Although the energy wave that was blasted out just now was not enhanced by martial arts, it was unbelievable that it could increase so much in an instant. Lu Wansher stood at the entrance of the cafeteria, and said, "This dish is called exploding spicy fish. The peppers and chilies used are from the upper realm. With different ingredients and cooking, you only need to eat one bite to stimulate the energy in your dantian, and achieve an extreme explosion." Amazing! Jun Changshao gave her a thumbs up. Lu Wansher continued, "The disadvantage is that it can only be used once." Jun Changshao had also noticed that after the energy wave was blasted out, although the spicy taste was still in his mouth, the explosive power from squeezing the energy core no longer existed. Although it was a little regretful, an instant increase of 40% in combat power would definitely play an important role in dangerous situations, and even turn the tide of the battle. "Girl." Jun Changshao asked, "How about another bite?" Lu Wansher shook her head and said, "You have to wait for 4 hours for the peppers and chilies in your body to be completely digested before eating again." 4 hours was a little long, and it was destined not to be used frequently in regular battles, but it could be used as a trump card. "Qingyang, I've sinned." Jun Changshao said loudly, "Come and try it." "Yes." Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji walked into the cafeteria and put a piece of fish into their mouths. They ran out with flushed faces and mimicked the patriarch's previous actions. Kamehameha. Kamehameha. Whoosh. Whoosh. 2 beams of light shot out. After that, more and more disciples tasted the exploding spicy fish one after another. They stood outside the cafeteria and shouted shameful words. They blasted out energy waves that dragged streams of light. The scene was very ridiculous. Lu Wansher's new cuisine was very successful. After all, without the support of any treasures, the food alone could instantly increase one's combat power by 40%. If one person ate it, they would improve, but what if a group ate it? It could be imagined that one day in the future, the sect of all times and the 10 immortal sects would confront each other. Under the patriarch's command, the disciples would all bring out a bowl of exploding spicy fish and eat it. Everyone's strength would increase. The scene would definitely be serious and passionate. Lass. Jun Changshao encouraged him, you still need to work harder. This kind of instantaneous increase in strength was not enough to satisfy him. He had to study more varieties and types. Only then would he have a plentiful backup plan to deal with all the troubles. Yes. Lu Wancher nodded and said, I will do my best to research new cuisines. Hall Masterly Jun Changshao ordered, pack a portion of exploding spicy fish and send it to Yixingchen as soon as possible. This should be useful when the disciples go to a second-grade forbidden area. Yes. Li Luoqiu immediately arranged it. Not long after, a member of the Drizzle Hall in a dragon robe rode a small motorcycle to the second-grade forbidden area that Yixingchen went to with the packed exploding spicy fish. Ah Nyo, your takeout is on the way. In the dark mountain wilderness. Yixingchen held the takeout that had just been delivered in a daze. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. The patriarch suddenly sent someone to deliver food. Does he think that I can't even fill my stomach with the most basic food when I go out for training? There was a note on the lunchbox. The content of the note was, Ah Nyo, this is your junior sister Lu's new product. After eating it, it can greatly increase your strength. If you encounter danger, remember to eat it. TSK, Yixingchen snorted coldly and put the exploding spicy fish into his spatial ring. Although he knew that Lu Wancher's food had the effect of increasing strength, such as the strength fried rice in the past, he was no longer the same as before. How could he rely on external items to get through difficulties? Ta! He stepped forward and elegantly blended into the barrier. He went in. This guy entered the illusionary soul formation alone. The martial artists outside immediately discussed. They could only raise their thumbs to show respect to the black-robed man who just walked in alone. Patriarch. Sect of all times. After Li Luoqiu received the information, she said, Yixingchen has entered the second-grade forbidden area. I hope he can come out safely, Jun Changshao said. Patriarch. Lu Wancher sent a message, time to eat. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, let's go eat. When he arrived at the cafeteria, just as he was about to start eating, he suddenly thought of something and asked, Girl, one bite of the exploding spicy fish can greatly increase one's combat strength. What if you eat it all? This, Lu Wancher held her chin and thought, I haven't tested it before. Jun Changshao reminded, test it when you have time. If there are any side effects, remind the disciple to use it cautiously. N. Let's eat, let's eat. Boom. Boom. Inside the illusionary soul formation, a loud explosion shook the sky. At this moment, Yixingchen's wild nature and strength completely erupted as he fought with a huge spirit beast. The scene could be said to be very explosive. This second-grade forbidden area was similar to Demon Ox Mountain. There were no treasures inside, and the value of its existence was to train. This was because the transformed spirit beast was very real and had extremely strong combat strength. Heaven Crossing Palm Print. 7 Profound Sunglow Break. Boom. Boom. The palm print and the light beam crisscrossed. In the end, under Yixingchen's full power, the Fourth Revolution Reincarnation Realm Spirit Beast was blasted into nothingness. Roar. Roar. At this moment, there was another roar from the void space, and 2 larger phantom beasts gradually formed. Yixingchen frowned. He just killed one, and 2 more came. The second-grade forbidden area was indeed worthy of its reputation. Of course, Anyo wouldn't back down. He activated the text special effect and transformed into an unparalleled war god. He jumped over with the halberd in his hand. 1 hour later, Yixingchen put down the halberd with a proud look on his face. The 2 giant spirit beasts behind him were already in a fragmented state. Roar! Roar! Before he finished his pose, another 4 spirit beasts formed. Yixingchen's expression became a little serious. After killing 2, another 4 came. If he killed them, wouldn't there be 8 more? Sure enough. After he spent a lot of effort to deal with them, another 8 spirit beasts gathered in the area. Although their strength didn't increase, their number doubled every time. Who could withstand this? Retreat. He had to retreat. Nyo finally backed down. However, it was too late. The 8 spirit beasts gathered in 8 directions, forming an inescapable net that didn't give him a chance to retreat. Roar! Boom! 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 The spirit beasts launched a frenzied attack. All kinds of palm prints and energy came from all directions, forcing Yi Xingqian to dodge in a sorry state. He even got hit by some carelessness. Damn it! Nyo staggered a few steps back in anger. The current situation was very tricky for him. If he wanted to resolve it, he had to activate his bloodline and transform into the green ox form. Wait a minute. There was still the food sent by the patriarch. Shwa! Yi Xingqian hurriedly took it out and opened the lid while dodging the attacks. He raised his head and ate the entire bowl of exploding spicy fish. He didn't even chew during the entire process. The scene was too brutal. Fortunately, it was packed and the portion was relatively small. If it was a whole bowl, he wouldn't be able to swallow the fish alone. Ah! 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 Suddenly, there was a howling sound from the spirit array. The martial artists who were training in other areas heard it and were so shocked that they stopped fighting. Even the spirit beasts were stunned. What's the situation? Let's go and take a look. Everyone hurriedly followed the sound. When they arrived at the scene, they saw the black-robed man who came in alone bending over. His entire face and neck had turned red. Thick smoke was surging around his body as though his body was on fire. Ah! Yi Xingqian clenched his fists and roared angrily. Huff, huff. A scorching aura burst out along with the thick smoke. His entire body seemed to be covered in flames, like a monster that walked out from a volcano. All the martial artists suddenly shuddered. Even the 8 phantasmal beasts nearby showed a human-like expression of fear. Monster. This is a monster. Chapter 1507. Eating a mouthful of exploding spicy fish would cause the energy core in his dantian to explode. Or a bowl. Lu Wanshi did not know because she had never tested it before. Yi Xingqian, who was in the illusionary soul array, personally tested it. Although it was not enough for a bowl, the lunchbox used to store food was at least half a bowl. It exploded. It completely exploded. Nyo's face and neck were not only as red as blood, but even his skin had changed color. Especially his pores that were emitting thick smoke, as though he had turned into a volcano that was about to erupt. Bull Demon King's son, Red Boy. Huff huff. Huff huff huff. The energy core in his dantian was operating crazily. His true spirit force was constantly being compressed and stimulated to the extreme. From a martial artist's point of view, this was no longer a human, but a monster from head to toe. The spirit beasts that were transformed from special energy were also frightened at this moment and could smell a strong sense of danger. Ta! At this moment, Yi Xingqian took a step forward with difficulty. His eyes were bloodshot and his right hand seemed to have turned into a piece of red-hot iron. It spread to the halberd that he was holding, and the surface of the halberd was instantly enveloped by the exploding flame special effect. Divine ability? High-grade martial art. Regarding this sudden explosion, all the martial artists were guessing. But in reality, it was as though he had suddenly gone berserk because he had eaten a bowl of spicy fish. Furthermore, the spicy taste gathered in his mouth and made him have the urge to spit out flames. At this moment, Yi Xingqian was as terrifying as a bull. Roar! The 8 spirit beasts let out a cry of fear and twisted their bodies to escape. All the martial artists' mouths twitched. A fourth or fifth transformation martial artist released an aura that was similar to a volcanic eruption and scared off 8 spirit beasts. This was unheard of. Die. How could Yi Xingqian, who was in a powerful state, let them escape? He immediately rose from the ground and pressed forward with his halberd that was enhanced by the flame special effect. He then followed up with a domineering total annihilation. Xiao, scarlet flames swept over, and the explosive force whistled. Ta! After a while, Yi Xingqian slashed down with his halberd, and the 8 phantasmal beasts in different directions shattered into nothingness. Their instincts were right. This human who was like an erupting volcano was indeed extremely dangerous. They didn't even have the ability to escape and could only watch as he killed them. Terrifying. This is too scary. All the martial artists were dumbstruck. His strength was on par with soul beasts, but he was able to kill 8 of them in an instant. What kind of amazing ability was this to be able to increase his combat strength so greatly? Who? Yi Xingqian was panting. This was not because he was tired from consuming too much energy. This was because the spicy taste was still in his mouth, deeply stimulating his taste buds, nerves, and brain. Fight! Yi Xingqian suddenly turned his head and fixed his gaze on the crowd. The heavenly halberd in his hand was once again enveloped in flames, exuding a thirst for battle, a thirst for slaughter. Not good. This guy is crazy. Retreat! Retreat! All the cultivators hurriedly fled. Among them, there was no lack of 5 or 6 revolving core experts. His aura was too strong, and everyone was afraid. Seeing that they had all fled, Yi Xingqian suppressed his battle intent and left the illusionary soul formation at his fastest speed. He found a small stream and crazily drank to get rid of the taste in his mouth. As a result, the more he drank, the more thirsty he became. After eating a small bowl of exploding spicy fish, the side effect was that the taste would linger for a long time, and his skin would be as red as blood. Spicy. Too spicy. In the wilderness, Yi Xingqian's roar could be heard. In the following period of time, the surrounding area gradually began to spread. A scarlet-red martial artist would frequently appear, and thus, he was given the title of Scarlet Flame Demon. After Jun Changshao, who was in the sect of all times, learned of Yi Xingqian's matter, he collapsed and said, "This guy couldn't have eaten all the food delivered to him, right?" Patriarch. Lu Wancher walked over and said, "I have already tested it. If you eat too much exploding spicy fish, your body will continue to turn red. No other side effects?" "No." "Then that's good." Jun Changshao was relieved and asked, "How long will it last?" Lu Wancher scratched her head and said, "According to the quantity, the fastest would be 10 days to half a month, and the slowest would be 2 to 3 months. Jun Changshao asked curiously, "How did you test it?" "Hall Master Z," Lu Wancher replied. Jun Changshao quickly released his spiritual perception and enveloped the spirit beast peak in the distance. He could only see the Purple King's body turning red as he breathed out. His body was like a piece of burning fire. Sigh. "Sorry to trouble you, Z." Yi Xingqian endured the side effects of his body turning red as he continued his cultivation journey. The disciples of the sect of all times were busy with their cultivation and missions as usual. During this period of time, the Taishian elder had been constantly installing Diablo. Batches after batches of new products were sent to the battle cavalry hall, and the quantity increased from 100 to 200, 300, Jun Changshao occasionally came to inspect. When he saw the members activating the mecha for training, he smiled. The overall strength of the sect wasn't strong enough and couldn't challenge the other major sections. If they could equip a large number of Diablo, such as thousands or tens of thousands of them, they would naturally be able to put up a fight. The system was speechless. Eating, fighting, and activating mecha for battle. This sect is poisonous. Why? Jun Changshao didn't think much of it. Are we not allowed to use black technology? Orthodox cultivation was a waste of time and resources. If he could use an unconventional method to increase the strength of the sect, he wouldn't mind the style issue. After all, strength was everything. What a pity. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, I didn't have the chance to use it in actual combat. There were plenty of Diablo, but they had never experienced a real battle. Hence, it was hard for them to display their valiant side. If there was anyone to blame, it was his master, Jinren Tonggu, who was too strong. The other major sects didn't dare to jump out and mock him. They couldn't provide Go Sheng with the opportunity to show off his existence. If it was the lower realm, after 3 years of development, they would have already beaten the Haochi sect and the Holy Spring sect. Master. Arya's voice rang in his ears. Are you still interrogating that guy? Who? The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader captured in Moyuan City. Because there were too many things to deal with, Jun Changshao completely forgot about him after throwing him into the Tianyuan prison pagoda. If it wasn't for Arya's reminder, he probably wouldn't have remembered at all. Whoosh! With a thought, he merged into the prison. Jun Changshao just arrived at the first floor of the prison. Before he could stand firm, the Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader said, I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. During the time when he was forgotten, he went through countless tortures. Now, he was neither human nor ghost. Because the scene was a bit cruel, I won't describe the details. Everyone can slowly experience it. Where is Moang region? Jun Changshao asked. West Sea. It's not inland. The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader said, after the 10 great immortal sects and the powerhouses of the various clans killed the demonic ancestor, they moved the entrance of Moang region to the West Sea. Not only did they set up seals, but they also left layers of traps. Speaking of the demonic ancestor, Jun Changshao remembered that Guy seemed to have said that the land of demonic affinity was only one of his resurrection plans. So, he asked, what's the other resurrection plan of the demonic ancestor? The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader was stunned. The other plan of the demonic ancestor's resurrection was a secret in the Buried Moon Pavilion. How did this guy know? You won't talk. Talk. I'll talk. The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader hurriedly said, before the demonic ancestor fell, he used his magic to split his innate holy demon body and send it to the lower realm to find a suitable successor. When the successor ascended to the upper realm, he would activate the blood pool and gather the demonic ancestor's body. How much did he split? 10. How much has been activated now? 9. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, does this mean that if another martial artist with the innate demon body ascends to the upper realm, the demonic ancestor will reconstruct his body? That's right. The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader really answered all the questions. It was obvious how difficult this period of time was. Gurgle. Gurgle. In the dark place that was similar to an altar, the originally calm blood pool boiled again. It's coming, it's coming. The black-robed old men sitting in 4 positions said excitedly, the 10th martial artist with the innate demon body is about to ascend to the upper realm. Chapter 1508. One of the demon ancestors' resurrection plans was to use the blood and souls of many demonic cultivators to find a carrier for resurrection. The location was the land of demonic fate. In the end, not only was it destroyed by Jun Changshao, but it also allowed Yao Menjing to inherit the innate holy devil body. The second resurrection plan was to wait for the 10 innate demon body holders to ascend to the upper realm, and then use the blood pool to reconstruct their bodies and reappear in the light of day. The 2 plans had one thing in common, and that was the physical body. This also meant that even if the demon ancestor's remnant soul was not destroyed, he could not be resurrected without a body. Sigh. Jun Changshao shook his head and sighed, it's extremely difficult to resurrect such a big shot, how can we separate Yixingchen and Pei Ainu? Wait. His eyes lit up and said, since the demon ancestor has a way to reconstruct his body, why can't I? The coexistence of Yi Xingqian and Pei Aniu's souls in the body could be confirmed, but the current problem was that one was not enough. If he could create another one, wouldn't the problem be solved? The system said, the host plans to snatch the demon ancestor's reconstructed body and use it as a carrier for one of the souls. Jun Changshao, who was still thinking, immediately slapped his forehead and said happily, "That's a good idea." The system was speechless. Did I talk too much? Not only did it talk too much, it also provided Jun Changshao with a very bold plan. That was, if the demon ancestor really wanted to resurrect, he could completely snatch the reconstructed body and store one of Yi Xingqian and Pei Aniu's souls in it, thus separating the two. However, the danger was definitely high. More importantly, no one knew when the 10th innate demon body holder would ascend. If it was thousands of years later, or tens of thousands of years later, it would definitely be far away. The system said, so it's better to rely on them all. Not to mention a physical body, at least there's a way to separate the two souls. The difficulty and risk will also be lower. Although it was suspected of promoting, what it said was reasonable. Sigh. Jun Changshao sighed again and said, that's the only way. To separate Yi Xingqian and Pei Aniu into two separate people, it would depend on luck and timing. It couldn't be rushed. However, Gou Xing did not forget about Demon Alpha reviving and rebuilding her body. He asked again, where is the blood pool you mentioned? Buried Moon Pavilion headquarters. Where is the headquarters? This, Pa. Arya waved her hand and took out the soul-suppressing whip and hit it on the ground. Her small face was suddenly covered with layers of frost. The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader hurriedly said, I've never been to the headquarters. I only know that there's a relatively important branch in Sea Monarch City. Every year, they go there to participate in the regular meetings. A dark organization that had been fighting with the Jia Hall for so long would definitely have done a good job of keeping secrets. It would be very difficult for non-core members to know the location of their headquarters. As for the second part of the Demon Ancestors' revival plan, how did a branch master know about it? This was because it was not a big secret. After all, the land of demonic affinity alone was known by many of the upper realms' big shots as an opportunity for resurrection. Knowing was one thing. Whether or not they could stop it was another. The land of demonic affinity created by the demon ancestor was connected to the upper realms' world origin. This was to tell the 10 great immortal sects and various clans that if she wanted to resurrect, none of them could stop her. It was a pity. The plan was not bad, but she ran into Jun Changshao. In front of such a cheat, not only did she not take over Yao Menjing's body, but she also benefited and even integrated the bloodline of the Stone Statue clan. Sea Monarch City. In the main hall, Jun Changshao took out a map and quickly determined that this city was one of the western coastal cities. In terms of location, it was the closest to the West Sea. The demonic territory is sealed in the West Sea. An important branch of Buried Moon Pavilion was established here. There should be a purpose. Gou Xing speculated. Patriarch. Li Qingyang shouted, come out and see. Jun Changshao walked out of the main hall and found that in the west, there was a black light rushing into the sky until it reached the top and spread in all directions, forming some kind of strange pattern. He was surprised, the birth of a treasure. No. The color was wrong. The phenomenon of heaven and earth was usually dazzling. Now, the black light was rushing into the sky, forming a very eerie pattern. It was hard to associate it with a treasure. It was more like, a disaster was coming. West. Jun Changshao's expression changed greatly, and said, the demon ancestor is resurrected again. If the person involved heard this, he would definitely roar, why do you say, again? Whoosh! While thinking, he summoned the Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader who was in Tianyuan Prison Pagoda and asked, what's the situation? The other party steadied himself and saw the phenomenon in the west. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted piously, "The 10th connate demon body has appeared. The resurrection of my ancestor is imminent." Jun Changshao frowned. Just now, he was thinking that he might have to wait for thousands of years. Now that the phenomenon of the resurrection of the demon ancestor had appeared, he should be happy. Why was he frowning? Because the pace was too fast. If the reconstructed body of the demon ancestor could help Yixingchen separate from Pei Ainu, the premise was that they had to snatch it and become enemies with Buried Moon Pavilion. They had fought with the Jia Hall for so many years and had not been destroyed. This organization's strength must be very strong. Now, they might not be able to compete with them. Patriarch. Lu Wanxia ran over in a panic and said, "Junior Sister Yao is missing." The upper realm. Black light appeared and formed a complicated pattern in the sky. All the martial cultivators could see it clearly. They thought the same as Jun Changshao. They did not think that this was a phenomenon caused by the birth of a treasure. It was very likely that some kind of disaster was about to descend. What will come will still come. Outside the extreme grade cave abode, Jinren Tonggu's face showed a rare solemn expression. Unlike ordinary martial artists who could only judge from the color, he had already realized the seriousness of the problem from the faint demon chi that was emitted. Sigh. Masato Kitano shook his head and said, "I thought that the failure of the land of demon affinity would delay the arrival of this day. In the end, it only delayed it for a while. The demon ancestors' hatred for the 10 great celestial sects and the various clans must be unprecedentedly strong. If it succeeds in resurrecting this time, the disaster it will bring will definitely affect all the creatures in the upper realm," said Jinren Tonggu. "It's a mess." Masato Kitano said, "The upper realm is going to be in chaos." Master. In the sky outside the Lingyao Immortal, the hunchbacked old man stood in the air and looked at the black light in the west. He said, "I'm afraid the world is going to be in chaos this time. The upper realm has been peaceful for too long. A new order will only be established after experiencing chaos," said Empress Lingyao. The hunchbacked old man was silent. He knew that his master hated the realm hall, but it was a bit too much to want the upper realm to be in chaos and even establish a new order. Swish. Swish. Not long after the black light rose into the sky, streams of light flew out from all over the world and headed west. Judging from the aura they emitted, their strength was all at the level of the truth-seeking realm, and there were even some at the peak of it. Who were they? The 10 great celestial sects. Back then, they were the ones who initiated the destruction of the demon domain. Now that the demon ancestor was about to be resurrected, even if the final result might not be able to be stopped, they definitely would not stand idly by. The soaring black light gradually released an aura that could disturb the mind, causing a large number of demonic cultivators to fly over with red eyes. For a moment, flying supreme treasures and traces of flowing light could be seen everywhere in the sky. Of course, there was a heavyweight in the team heading for the soaring black light, and that was Jun Changshao. At this moment, he stood at the bow of the ship and frowned. That girl must have gone. Fine. When Gosheng left the city, not even a blade of grass grew. We can only pray for the demon ancestor in silence. Before we died, we even set up a resurrection plan. Chapter 1509. The demon ancestor was about to revive, and Yao Menjing's disappearance was definitely related to it. Therefore, even if Jun Changshao didn't want to participate, he had to rush over. After all, his disciple was more important than the sky in his heart. Logically speaking, the phenomenon had just appeared, and the girl couldn't have flown too far even if she used the rainbow light wings. However, after chasing for a long time, he still couldn't find her. Something's not right. Jun Changshao frowned. The ancient warship activated its speed and spread out its spiritual senses, but it still couldn't find Yao Menjing. This was really strange. Unless, she didn't follow the normal route, or she didn't go to the west. Hall Masterly Jun Changshao transmitted his voice. Quickly send the Drizzle Hall members to search in different directions. Roger. After Li Luoqiu, who was in the Sect of all times, received the message, she immediately sent Li Tian and the others to fly out of the Aeon Immortal Mountain to search for the missing Yao Menjing. Jun Changshao didn't change his direction and continued to rush to the west. In his heart, he still believed that his disciple's departure was related to this thing. As long as he reached his destination, he might be able to find her. Outside a forbidden area that didn't deserve a name, Yi Xingqian strode out. Due to the side effects, his skin was still red like blood. A supreme treasure has appeared. He raised his head and saw the phenomenon of black light shooting into the sky in the west. His eyes flashed with excitement. He left the sect to train. Now that there was a special situation, he was naturally interested. Swoosh! The rainbow light wings spread out and turned into a stream of light as he flew over. Everyone wanted to obtain a fortuitous opportunity, and the proud Yi Xingqian was no exception. However, after flying for a few hours, he unexpectedly found an extremely familiar rainbow light in the sky. He was rather surprised. Junior Sister Yao. That's right. The one in front was Yao Menjing. She wasn't heading to the west where the black light was shooting into the sky, but southwest. No wonder Jun Changshao couldn't find her. After all, the route was very different. Why is she alone? Yi Xingqian frowned. Yao Menjing was the most doted junior sister in the sect of all times, and she had just inherited the innate Saint Devil body. She was the apple of the patriarch's eye, so how could she be allowed to come out alone? No. Something was wrong. At this moment, Anyo's intelligence came online. He hurriedly sped up and successfully stopped Yao Menjing. He said, "Junior sister, where are you going?" Swish. The man bypassed him. Yi Xingqian's frown deepened. When Yao Menjing passed by him, he clearly saw her eyes flicker with red light, as if she was being controlled by some kind of power. Even though Anyo was known as the eternal true incense emperor, he still had basic intelligence. Immediately, he was even more certain that something was wrong with the situation. Hence, he chased after her again and madly at her, "Junior sister, what's wrong with you?" Not only did Yao Menjing not reply, she even increased her flying speed. Something was off. Stop her. Swish. Yi Xingqian hurriedly sped up. After overtaking Yao Menjing, he stopped in her path and said, "Junior sister, follow me back to the sect." Get lost. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A cold wind from a palm suddenly pressed over. Boom. Yi Xingqian staggered and landed on the ground. His expression gradually became serious. The words, "get lost," were cold and heavy. It was obviously not his junior sister's voice. It was obvious that she was being controlled by some kind of power. Could it be that someone was controlling his junior sister's body? Hey. Yi Xingqian hurriedly contacted the nearest member of the Drizzle Hall and said, "I'm Yi Xingqian. Hurry up and inform the sect. Junior sister Yao Menjing seems to be controlled by some kind of power. She's heading southwest alone." When he sent the message, he had already chased after her. In terms of strength, Anyo was stronger than Yao Menjing. He could forcefully control her and bring her back to the sect. However, he was afraid that he would hurt her. Hence, he could only follow behind and observe the situation. The intelligence agency of the Drizzle Hall had developed well in the past few years. The nearby members were gradually sent the news to the sect of all times. After Li Luoqiu received the news, she immediately informed Jun Changshao. Why is she in the southwest? Swish. The ancient warship changed its course and flew toward the southwest. Go Sheng wanted to see the resurrection of the demon ancestor. Perhaps he would have a chance to reconstruct his body. However, now that he knew the location of his disciple, he had to ensure her safety first. After all, Anyo had said that her mind was being controlled by some kind of power. Furthermore, this time, the phenomenon had alarmed so many demonic cultivators. The situation was probably more serious than the opening of the land of demonic affinity. Hence, he immediately ordered the vanguard group of the war cavalry hall to move out. Gather. Swish. 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 Outside the war cavalry hall, the members of the vanguard group were ready to go. Under the command of their leader, Zhongyi, they all summoned Diablo and entered the cockpit in unison. Hum. Hum. Thousands of mechas were activated instantly. Their eyes were shining brightly. All kinds of energy were superimposed, forming layers of airwaves. The special effects were self-explanatory and could not be bothered to describe them. Mecha number 2, in position. Mecha number 3, in position. After hearing the reports from his subordinates, Zhongyi, who was in Mecha No. 1, saw a few members waving batons on the runway. He immediately pushed the lever and shouted, "Let's go." Whoosh! Whoosh! The two turbine-like devices on the back suddenly emitted light. The Diablo glided close to the ground until they reached the end of the runway and flew into the sky. Then, they opened their colorful wings. The mechas and the equipment in the shop were a perfect combination. Swish! Swish! In an instant, streams of colorful light flew out from the Aeon Immortal Mountain. The scene was like a swarm of locusts passing through. The vanguard group of the war cavalry hall is moving out. Something big is happening. Many outer sect disciples looked at the scene in the sky with envy in their eyes. This was a traditional martial Dao world. However, under the influence of Jun Changshao, they all had the idea that men should use mechas. Fuck. So many monsters. Thousands of Diablo mechas flew across the sky, creating a huge commotion that immediately alerted the nearby martial artists. They had seen similar scenes before, but this was the first time so many of them had appeared. Southwest, after flying for an hour, Yao Menjing landed in a deserted valley. The ground here was paved with stone slabs. 8 people in black robes stood on them. Their heads were lowered, and it was impossible to tell if they were men or women. "We're a little late." A few martial artists in black robes and masks walked out from the darkness. "The resurrection of the ancestral fiend is imminent. We can't waste time. Let's quickly set up the restriction array," said one of the black-robed men. His voice was slightly gloomy and old. "Yes." The others quickly separated and stood in different positions. They began to condense strange energy on their fingers and drew patterns on the stone slabs. Buzz. Buzz. In an instant, a barrier similar to an array formation appeared and gradually converged at the entrance of the vortex. "All of you." The black-robed man with the old voice said indifferently, "Go in." Ta. The black-robed man standing at the front of the vortex stepped forward. His head was lowered throughout the entire process. He looked a little like a walking corpse. 1. 2. 3. When all 8 of them went in, Yao Menjing was ready to move. Suddenly, a big hand landed on her shoulder, preventing her from moving. "Huh." The black-robed men looked over. Yi Xingchen was already standing behind Yao Menjing. He forcefully pulled her back and then placed the sky halberd under his feet. He said with a murderous aura, "Who gave you the courage to control my junior sister? Strong and ruthless." Chapter 15:10. First, there was the patriarch protecting his disciple. Now, there was the senior brother protecting his junior sister. At that moment, Yi Xingchen had inherited Jun Changxiao's protective nature. He would never allow anyone to harm his fellow disciples. Senior brother. Yao Menjing, who was standing behind him, held her head. Her eyes were sometimes clear and sometimes red. She said with difficulty, "I can't control my body. I am scared, don't be scared." Yi Xingqian said, "With senior brother here, no one can harm you." Who? Covered in energy, unparalleled war god Set was on his body. His eyes flashed coldly like a wild bull. "Come. On the left, shout star flying cloud scattering with me. On the right, shout sun moon ginseng with me. Kid." The leader of the black-robed masked men said in a deep voice, "You are delaying a very grand and sacred matter." As he spoke, he waved his hand. Shwa! Shwa! Several subordinates who were drawing the pattern rushed over. Their cultivation was all above rank 5 or 6. If it was just the demon beasts in the forbidden area, it might not be a big problem. But now, they were all human martial artists. Moreover, from their aura, they were clearly demonic cultivators. This was undoubtedly a test for Yi Xingqian, who was only rank 4. "Don't be afraid. Fight." Yi Xingqian suddenly raised his halberd and said coldly, "I don't care about any sacred matter. Anyone who dares to harm my junior sister must die." Domineering, heartless Anyo. Since these people's aura was very sinister, it might be related to controlling Yao Menjing. If he wanted her to break free, the best way was to kill them all. If it was Jun Changshao, he might be overcautious. After all, if he was careless, he would be criticized by the readers for being cruel. But Yi Xingqian did not care. Because he was not the main character. Even if he did something wrong, the patriarch would take the blame. Die. With this thought, Anyo pushed Yao Menjing out and surrounded her with a wall of qi. Then, he raised his halberd and used a move that could kill people. Not good. The black-robed men who surrounded him hurriedly retreated. In terms of strength, this young man seemed to be only rank 4. Why was his strength so strong? Because of equipment and bloodline. Even though Anyo had just entered the 4th transition, after the word's special effects were activated, the increase in his strength was especially obvious, not to mention the fact that he had awakened the Green Bull bloodline. Boom! Boom! Powerful energy erupted, and light illuminated the entire valley. Although the men in black had dodged in advance, they still couldn't avoid the force of the halberd and were forced to retreat. Unfortunately, their faces couldn't be seen clearly because of their masks. The leader did not expect a rank 4 to be so domineering. He immediately shouted, "Quickly snatch that woman." This was not the time to fight. He had to quickly complete the task given by the higher-ups and take away the 9th heavenly devil body. Who? Who? Yi Xingqian waved his Fangtian halberd and stood in front of Yao Menjing to protect her. It was as if he was an ox blocking the pass. 10,000 oxen would not be able to break through. Rob. If I can't protect junior sister today, the former sect leader Wang will write his surname backwards. Shwa. Shwa. At this time, even more masked martial artists flew out from the shadows. The number of people gradually increased to over 100. Luckily, their strength wasn't too high, most of them were at the first revolution revolving core realm. This is troublesome. Yi Xingqian, who had just set the flag, frowned. There were so many martial artists, including several rank 5 and 6, it would be difficult for him to protect junior sister. The news has been spread for so long, why hasn't anyone come to help? Although Yi Xingqian was vexed, he could only rely on himself now. Thus, he gripped his Fangtian halberd tightly and locked his gaze on the 100 or so men in black who were closing in on him. He couldn't take the initiative to attack because the other party would definitely snatch Yao Menjing. Thus, he was in a very passive situation. Go! Whoosh whoosh! In an instant, dozens of men in black pounced over. With the eruption of various darkness attributes, the valley became even more terrifying. Boom! Boom! Yi Xingqian waved his Fangtian halberd crazily and forced back all the martial artists who were closing in on him. However, he was inevitably attacked by some who slipped through and could only retreat step by step as the blood in his body roiled violently. Realm suppression, number suppression. Because he had to protect Yao Menjing, he was in a passive situation. Anyo's situation was very bad. Don't waste time. The leader of the black-robed martial artists shouted, quickly kill this hindrance and bring that woman away. Yes. Everyone received the order and pressed forward crazily. Of course, because they had to bring Yao Menjing back alive, they were also restricted to a large extent. Otherwise, they would have released their ultimate moves together. Boom! Boom! Yi Xingqian held his Fangtian halberd and fought against the attacking martial artists. He remained close to junior sister and did not let them take a single step forward. The price he had to pay was to be attacked again and again. Thinking about it carefully, since the establishment of the sect of all times, no disciple had been sacrificed. In order to be closer to reality, why not, whoosh whoosh. At this moment, the area where everyone was attacking suddenly flashed with golden light, causing a large number of black-robed martial artists to close their eyes and retreat. Swoosh! Yi Xingqian was still standing in front of Yao Menjing. The unparalleled war god set that was damaged by the attacks had been replaced by a shiny golden armor. Together with his cold face, he was instantly handsome to a whole new level. Golden Yao sacred armor. The leader of the black-robed masked man's voice was filled with disbelief. Swoosh! Yi Xingqian raised his hand, and the halberd beneath his feet disappeared into thin air. Immediately after, a similarly dazzling golden spear appeared. Golden Yao sacred spear. The leader of the black-robed masked man thought to himself, these two pieces of equipment clearly belong to Jin Hao. Why are they in his hands? Could it be that he was killed? The equipment and treasures were also stolen. At this dangerous moment, many people were waiting for Yi Xingqian to activate his bloodline and transform into the big green ox. In the end, he summoned two divine artifacts that were close to the immortal grade. What was a divine artifact? It was very godly. When Yi Xingqian put on the shiny golden armor and held the golden spear, every meridian in every pore seemed to be completely activated. The desire to fight became stronger and stronger. You all, Anyo looked up and said, you all have to die. Whoosh whoosh. The golden special effect instantly strengthened his body, as if he had turned into a golden saint. Anyo. Ignite your little universe. At this moment, the light that belongs to you, the glory that belongs to you, will illuminate the entire upper world. Swoosh! Swoosh! At this moment, the sound of wind breaking came from afar. Dense streams of colorful light appeared in the sky and flew over in a staggered pattern. The special effect was even more powerful than Yi Xingqian's sacred robe. Junior brother Yi. Li Qingyang's voice was heard. We're here. Yi Xingqian's expression became interesting. You guys didn't come when I was being ganged up on, but you guys came when I used my ultimate move. Aren't you guys trying to steal my limelight? Nyo heaved a sigh of relief. After all, they came in time, and, damn, so many Diablo mechas were deployed. Junior sister Yao is definitely not in danger. Trash. Yi Xingqian raised his spear and said coldly, you guys can go to hell now. In the close-up, the mechas behind him flew over rapidly with colorful streams of light and then slowly landed in the valley. What did this mean? It meant that when Anyo was in danger, he had thousands of troops behind him, unlike in his previous life where no one felt sorry for him when he was killed. Boom! 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 The ground shook frequently. After a while, a large group of Diablo mechas appeared behind Yi Xingqian. Their eyes were shining like hungry beasts as they locked onto the group of trembling masked men in black robes. 101st transformation stage is a lot. Sorry, but in the dictionary of the sect of all times, Group fights are the last thing they are afraid of. Whoosh! The ancient warship flew over and stopped above the valley. Jun Changshao sat at the bow of the ship and lit a cigarette. He said expressionlessly, "Vanguard Group, listen up. Kill them all." "Yes." Zhong Yi shouted, "Attack." Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thousands of huge and powerful Diablo mechas quickly walked up. It was like a group of adults surrounding hundreds of children in a very small area. They either raised their fists or raised their legs to attack. A few 4th or 5th transformation stage experts might not be afraid of these mechas, but they were being stepped on by Gu Zhaoxi and the black and white Rakshasa. They were using their faces to test the thickness of the floor. After a while, the hundreds of black-robed men were all taken care of, leaving only the leader. When their masks were removed, it was revealed that there was a crescent moon pattern on their foreheads. "Brother." Gu Zhaoxi frowned and said, "It's the buried moon pavilion." Jun Changshao landed and stepped on the face of the black-robed old man with a gloomy expression. He said coldly, "How dare you manipulate the disciples of the sect of all times? Do you believe that I will turn the buried moon pavilion into history in the next second?" Go Sheng had been keeping a low profile since coming to the upper realm, but it did not mean that he had turned over a new leaf and become a good person. If Yao Menjing had not been stopped by Yi Xingqian in time, she would have done everything she could to destroy this mysterious organization if she had lost a strand of her hair. Chapter 15:11. Because the quality of the shampoo used by the sect of all times was very good, Yao Menjing did not lose any hair, so there was no need for Jing Ji to jump down from Mech 66. However, was it over just because she did not lose any hair? Sorry, Jun Changshao had already remembered the Zanyue Pavilion, and had already remembered it in the deepest part of his heart. With Go Sheng's personality, as long as he was remembered, he would become an ATM at best, and at worst, he would be removed from the Jianghu, so let's mourn for him. "Patriarch," Yao Menjing said with difficulty, I still can't control my body." More than 100 members of the Zanyue Pavilion had been taken care of. The disciples were skillfully looting the crates, but the energy in her body had not been removed. Obviously, Yi Xingqian's guess was wrong, and the two had no connection. "Let me help you disintegrate." Jun Changshao grabbed Yao Menjing's wrist, and after a round of inspection, he found nothing. Strange. Why was there nothing? If that was the case, why was her body not under her control? The black-robed old man lying on the ground sneered, "The summoning will from my ancestor is not something that mortals like you can resolve." Jun Changshao pulled him over and said, "What do you mean?" "Ha ha ha." The black-robed old man laughed wantonly with a sinister expression and said, "This girl has an innate devil body and is destined to be sacrificed for the resurrection of my ancestor. This is a fate that no one can stop." Boom! Jun Changshao punched him, causing his face to cave in. He said angrily, "My life is your grandpa." "Patriarch," Yao Menjing hugged her head and said in pain, "I can't control myself anymore. I want to enter the vortex." She could still maintain her rationality, but the thought of forcing herself to move forward was like an irresistible order. "Seal!" Jun Changshao shouted, "Don't let her move." "Yes." Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others hurried to their junior sister and formed various barriers to restrict her movements. The black-robed old man laughed strangely, "My ancestor's summoning will cannot be disobeyed. If you forcefully stop her from doing something great, just wait for your bodies to explode." Bang! Boom! Yi Xingqian raised his leg and kicked him in the face. "I'll kill you first. I want to go in. I want to go in." Trapped in the barrier, Yao Menjing's eyes gradually turned red. Her last trace of reason was also controlled by some kind of power, as if she had turned into a walking corpse. "Damn it!" Jun Changxiao's expression turned ugly. Although he doubted the black-robed old man's words, he certainly didn't dare to take the risk. Therefore, he could only look at the vortex in the distance. Suddenly, he made up his mind and said, I want to see what is inside. Remove the barrier and let Menjing in. Patriarch, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others wanted to say something but hesitated. They could only obey the order and remove the enchantment that bound their junior sister. After regaining her freedom, Yao Menjing walked towards the whirlpool without looking back. Her crimson eyes became increasingly resplendent. It was obvious that some powerful force was summoning her. You guys wait here. Jun Changshao said, I will follow her in. Brother. Gu Zhaoxi stood up and said, it may be very dangerous inside. I will accompany you, stay. Jun Changshao had already followed Yao Menjing and said, this is an order. Gu Zhaoxi didn't say anything. Under the gaze of the higher-ups and disciples, Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing walked step by step toward the vortex that contained extremely strong demonic energy. The atmosphere around them also became very serious. Salute! Zhong Yi shouted loudly. Swoosh! Swoosh! Thousands of Diablo stood up straight and saluted the highest standard of etiquette to the patriarch. It felt like a farewell for a hero. Jun Changshao couldn't help but turn around and kick these idiots out. Whoosh! Whoosh! Inside the vortex, it was dark. The cold wind whistled like ghosts crying and wolves howling. Ta! Jun Changshao walked in and stepped on the heavy stone floor. He didn't have time to explore the surrounding environment because Yao Menjing, who came in later, had already walked forward. He could only quickly follow and be vigilant at all times to prevent any accidents from happening to his disciples. Woo woo! Woo woo woo! The cold wind blew faster and faster. At first glance, it sounded like some kind of strange language. Of course. There was also an extremely strong demonic energy in the dark environment. If it was someone else, they might have already felt uncomfortable. However, with two spiritual bodies in his body and having experienced demonic energy entering his body in the land of demonic affinity, Jun Changshao was not only fine, but also became more and more energetic. Girl. Go Xing transmitted his voice as he walked. Yao Menjing didn't answer. Obviously, she was completely controlled. Damn it! Jun Changshao clenched his fists and cursed in his heart, if it is controlled by someone, when I find the initiator, I will make him suffer a fate worse than death. Go Xing suddenly found a faint light in the darkness ahead. As he got closer and closer, the light became brighter and brighter. It was a circular stone platform with rows of burning candles around it. The stone floor outlined a complicated pattern, looking very gloomy. At this moment, 8 black-robed martial artists stood in different positions. They lowered their heads and put their palms together, like devout believers praying. What is this? Jun Changshao frowned. The system said, it seems to be an ancient altar. Is it related to the resurrection of the Demon Lord? Isn't the resurrection of the Demon Lord in the West? Jun Changshao was puzzled. Could it be a trap? To attract the powerhouses of the 10 major immortal sects, the real resurrection point is actually here. If that's the case, isn't it too arrogant of the Buried Moon Pavilion to send 100 first transition martial artists to guard it? The system said. A mysterious organization that could fight with the Realm Hall for so long definitely didn't lack masters. If this was really the resurrection point of the Demon Lord, there must be something wrong with their brains if they didn't send someone in the truth-seeking realm to guard it. Thud. At this moment, Yao Menjing walked onto the stone platform and stood on the strange pattern that looked like the eye of the array. She lowered her head and put her palms together, turning into a devout believer. Jun Changshao observed carefully and found that there was an empty spot next to her. He came to a conclusion and said, if I'm not wrong, these 8 people have the same connate demonic body as Menyao. According to the leader of the Buried Moon Pavilion, only 10 connate demonic bodies could trigger the second resurrection plan of the Demon Lord. Now that 9 of them were here, there was only one left, and it seemed to be an ascender. Could it be an acquaintance? The system said, could it be from the falling star continent? Jun Changshao was speechless. It can't be that coincidental, right? Because Yao Menjing was standing on the stone platform and didn't seem to be hurt at all, he stood outside the altar and waited for the 10th connate demonic body to appear. Hum. Hum. An hour later, the lines on the stone slab began to flicker, forming streaks of light that connected to the 9 people. It's starting. Jun Changshao said in surprise, isn't there one more? Hum. Hum. Yao Menjing and the others who were standing in the array trembled slightly, as if they couldn't connect because of the empty spots. The pattern under their feet flickered frequently, as if warning them. Not good. The system said in shock, Yao Menjing's vital signs are dropping rapidly. Swoosh. Jun Changshao rushed over hurriedly. Just as he reached out to pull his disciple down, he seemed to be struck by some kind of electric shock and was suddenly bounced away. Damn it! Gou Sheng stood up with difficulty, feeling numb all over his body. The system said, the 9 of them have an extremely strong barrier around them. With the host's cultivation, it's impossible to break it. Damn it! Jun Changshao roared, why isn't the 10th connate demonic body here yet? From the patterns flickering, he roughly guessed that this should be the beginning of some kind of ritual, but because one person was missing, it couldn't be completely connected, thus implicating the other 9. Her vital signs have dropped to 60%. If they drop below 20%, even if she's out of danger, there will be irreversible permanent damage. The system said. Stomp. Suddenly, Jun Changshao stepped out. He didn't touch Yao Menjing, but stood on the empty spot of the array and shouted, I'll be the 10th person, I'll be the head. Chapter 15:12. From the layout and pattern of the stone platform, it was obviously some kind of altar. Yao Menjing and the 8 men in black were arranged in an orderly manner, praying devoutly, apparently starting some kind of ritual. But there was a problem. There were supposed to be 10 positions, but there was still one missing. As a result, after the altar ritual started, they could not completely merge, and the situation was in a stalemate. That was not a problem, but Yao Menjing's vital signs were constantly declining, which proved that if they could not form 10 people, her life would be in danger. Jun Changshao was anxious. He wanted to pull his disciple out, but he could not touch her at all after the ritual started. In the end, he had no choice but to step onto the empty spot and act as the 10th innate demon body. This operation made the system's scalp tingle, although it did not have a scalp. Are you crazy? It roared, if there are more serious consequences, it will not only affect Yao Menjing, but also yourself. Jun Changshao stood in the pattern with his back to the camera, and said seriously, if I can't even save my own disciple, am I worthy to be the patriarch of the sect of all times? Whoosh! Whoosh! After confirming that the 10th person had entered, the light rushed over crazily, regardless of whether it matched with the other 9 people, and instantly enveloped Jun Changshao's body completely. At that moment, Gou Sheng's back was set off by the light, and it made people feel a strong sense of respect, and they even had the impulse to shout that he was awesome. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The black light was like a snake, spreading along his legs and wrists until it completely covered his whole body. At the same time, after Jun Changshao became the 10th person, the light that had been flashing like an alarm gradually stabilized, as if it meant that someone had filled the vacancy, and the ritual could continue. Yao Menjing's vital signs are recovering. The system's voice sounded in his ear, but Jun Changshao did not have time to listen, because his body was filled with a large amount of demonic energy. He had already experienced it when he was sitting on the throne of the demon ancestor in the land of demonic affinity. Now that he was here again, with the same taste and the same formula, the feeling was simply too good. Sigh. The system sighed, good luck. It did not take the initiative to activate the crisis resolution mode, after all, the host placed too much importance on the 3 points. If they were all reset to 0 this time, he might choke to death. Hoo. More and more devil chi poured into Jun Changxiao's body. He didn't scream, but clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. Obviously, he wanted to fully display his character of, "My life is in my own hands." Patriarch, suddenly, Yao Menjing's voice sounded. She was still standing in the pattern, and her eyes were gradually becoming clear. It was obvious that she had regained consciousness. However, the ritual had been completely activated, and she was surrounded by a barrier, so she couldn't break free. As for the other 8 people, they had also regained their senses. They raised their heads one after another. There were 4 men and 4 women. Some were in their 50s or 60s, while others were in their 20s or 30s. Just like Yao Menjing, they had inherited the innate devil body and had ascended from the lower realm. Even though there was a difference in time, they were going to experience the same thing today. They would be sacrificed in a special way. Swish. Swish. At this moment, something seemed to have been extracted from everyone's body. It turned into streams of light and flew into the sky. Then, it quickly gathered together to form something like a fetus. Patriarch, Yao Menjing said in pain, "My innate saint demon body has been extracted." She wasn't the only one. The other 8 people were also gone. However, Jun Changxiao didn't say anything during the whole process. Because the demonic aura was too strong, his face was gradually becoming more and more ferocious. Moreover, it seemed to be looking for something, but it couldn't find it. What was it looking for? The innate devil body. The reason it couldn't find it was because it didn't have it at all. It couldn't be helped. Since it had been activated and operated, they couldn't return empty-handed, right? Therefore, the demonic aura that had gathered in Go Sheng's body could only continue to search. Finally, it locked onto the evil aura in his dantian. "Father! I'm going out with them." Swish! Little Xia shouted. Then, guided by the demonic aura, she turned into a stream of light and flew up, quickly merging with the other 9 black auras. The merging process was a bit disharmonious. Because, apart from Yao Menjing's constitution, the other 8 rejected it. They even despised it from the bottom of their hearts. This guy isn't on the same side as us. Why is he joining in the fun? Don't agree? That's fine. I'll just scare him a little. Little Xia crazily released her evil aura, enveloping the 8 attributes that didn't agree with her. She suppressed them with an aura of, "I've finished speaking." Who agrees? Who disagrees? The 8 attributes weren't humans. Naturally, they didn't have any backbone. Realizing that this external attribute was a bit strong, they immediately admitted defeat and merged with it obediently. As expected of the son born in Jun Changxiao's body. She had perfectly inherited the arrogance of a Bao Nian VIP user. Whoosh! Whoosh! 9 attributes and 1 evil attribute successfully merged. Slowly, they began to spread and converge into a vortex. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, Jun Changxiao, Yao Menjing, and the others on the altar turned into streams of light and merged into it. Ta! 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 At this moment, many black-robed masked men rushed over from the dark area. Judging from their aura, they were quite strong. They should be the elites of the Buried Moon Pavilion. It's open. The leading black-robed martial artist said excitedly, the entrance to the demonic region is finally open. Although the faces of the subordinates behind him couldn't be seen clearly, they should be very excited at this moment. The 10 major immortal sects definitely wouldn't have thought that my ancestor divided the connate demon body into 10 parts and sent them to the mortal world. His real intention was not to resurrect it, but to open the demonic region that has been sealed for 100,000 years. Ha ha ha. Unbridled laughter sounded in the altar. Swish. Suddenly, a stream of light flew over from afar, dragging a black-robed man in his hand. He landed in front of the altar and said in annoyance, "Damn it, there was a small accident in the middle and it delayed a lot of time. I hope we can complete the ceremony." At this point, he saw the vortex gathering in the sky and his eyes were filled with disbelief. "Great Guardian, you," the black-robed martial artist who was laughing wildly was also stunned. The next second, the two of them said in unison, "What's going on?" The black-robed martial artist who had just arrived was the guardian of the Buried Moon Pavilion. He was also one of the people in charge of the opening of the altar ceremony. His main task was to bring back the 10th Khanate demon body on time, but there was an accident on the way and it delayed a lot of time. So, here came the problem. Since the person had not arrived, how did the ceremony proceed? Even if there was a mistake, it was understandable to open it in advance. But the 10th Khanate demon body was not in place. How did the vortex appear? What the hell is going on? The Great Guardian did not wear a mask. He was an old man about 70 years old. At this moment, the expression on his face had completely collapsed. It required 10 Khanate demon bodies to activate. Now that one was missing, the vortex was successfully opened. It was completely unreasonable and did not follow the routine at all. Wouldn't they know if they went in and took a look? Unfortunately, they could not go in. Because of the appearance of this vortex, only martial artists who had activated the vortex and possessed the Khanate demon body were qualified to enter. No. No. The Great Guardian calmed down and said with a solemn expression, "There must be someone impersonating and sneaking in. Will there be any problems if a non-Khanate successor goes in?" The black-robed martial artist was quite worried. It shouldn't be. The Great Guardian guessed, to be able to merge with 9 Khanate demon bodies and successfully activate the vortex leading to the demonic region, it may be one of us. That's good, that's good. Chapter 15-13. My head hurts. In the dark environment, Jun Changshao stood up with difficulty, holding his head with one hand and his waist with the other, with a slightly painful expression on his face. The feeling of the demonic energy entering his body just now was too sour. Even if it had disappeared now, he still had an endless aftertaste. Patriarch. Yao Menjing rubbed her head and said, "Where is this place?" The camera zoomed out and found that the two were on a red land, and the surrounding vegetation was also red, looking a little scary. Hearing that the girl spoke normally, Jun Changshao breathed a sigh of relief. Then he looked at the environment seriously, and then said puzzledly, "Netherworld? 9 nether yellow springs." In the distant sky, there were streams of light lingering, and the space seemed to be superimposed, giving people a feeling that it was not a world inhabited by living creatures. If I'm not wrong. A middle-aged man with a calmer face guessed, this should be the demonic territory that was sealed by the 10 immortal sects and the major clans. Who was this? One of the 9 possessors of the Khanate demon body. In other words, at the moment, beside Jun Changshao was not only Yao Menjing, but also the other 8 who were transmitted in at the same time. Because they did not know their names, the men would be temporarily introduced as male number 1 and male number 2, and the women as female number 1 and female number 2. Demonic territory. Jun Changshao was stunned. Wasn't that place sealed in the West Sea? How did he get in so carelessly? Carelessly and delicately. Including Yao Menjing, they all came in through the formal procedures, but Go Xing came in just to make up the numbers. According to the normal plot, he should not appear here. There was no choice. Cheats were often special existences that jumped out of the 3 realms and not in the 5 elements. Male number 1 said, "Although it has been sealed for 100,000 years, there are records in the ancient books, so combined with the current geographical environment, I can be sure that this must be the demonic territory. Since it is the demonic territory, why is the demonic energy so withered?" Male number 2 spoke. Judging from his appearance, he was at least 60 or 70 years old. Needless to say. Female number 1 walked over, flicked her black hair, and said, "It must be because the demon ancestor fell and was sealed for a long time." This woman's voice was very charming and she looked exotic. She could be considered a first-class beauty. Jun Changshao subconsciously looked over, not because he was admiring their beauty, but because he suddenly realized that the auras of these 8 people were all demonic cultivators, and he was the only one who was a conventional martial cultivator. The current situation was that a dog had mixed in with the sheep. Of course. The 8 innate devil body heirs were also puzzled. They were all devil cultivators, so how could they mix in with a conventional martial cultivator? Lass. Jun Changshao said, "Let's go. Let's first assume that this was the demonic region. Since he was already here, he should search the area thoroughly. Perhaps, there might be some sort of fortuitous encounter waiting for his disciple to inherit." The 8 connate fiend body heirs also began to move. However, they very consciously separated, obviously planning to act alone. At least if they found something good, it would belong to them. "Everyone!" Jun Changshao shouted, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If this is the demonic region, there may be many unknown mechanisms and traps, so it's best to move together, lest you lose your lives here and become wandering ghosts." TSK, number 3 snorted coldly and continued to move forward. The others didn't take Jun Changshao's words seriously and insisted on acting alone. Soon, they went in different directions. Go Sheng shook his head and said, "Are all devil cultivators very proud and aloof?" Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "This place seems very big, where are we going?" After confirming that the 8 devil cultivators had left, Jun Changshao took out the treasure detector and said with a smile, "Of course, to the place where the good stuff is hidden." Why did this guy suggest to set off in a group just now? The main reason was that the connate fiend body heirs were quite strong, most of them were at the 4th, 5th, and 6th transformation level. If he could establish a revolutionary friendship along the way, he might be able to pull them into the sect to accompany the lass. Since they didn't want to follow, he could only enjoy all the good stuff alone. Buzz. Spiritual sense entered and activated the treasure. However, when the light on the compass began to flicker and gradually stabilized, there was no prompt. Jun Changshao broke down and said, "No way, there's nothing here." The system said, "After all, the treasure detector was bought from the lower realm. It might not be effective in the upper realm, so, hurry up and replace it." Get lost. Jun Changshao rolled his eyes. Although the treasure detector was useless, it didn't hinder him from moving forward. Thus, he closed his eyes and counted in his heart. His right finger waved until it stopped, and he said, "Lass, let's go this way." The system was speechless. Choose the path according to fate, pay attention. Swoosh. Jun Changshao jumped up, and his body fell straight back down. Swoosh. Swoosh. He jumped a few more times and landed awkwardly. Pfft. Yao Menjing couldn't help but cover her mouth. Jun Changshao broke down. The heavenly axiom system here is far inferior to the upper realm, why can't we fly? The system said, because there's some kind of restriction that restricts flight. Okay. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "Lass, bring out the rainbow wings." Okay. Yao Menjing hurriedly shook her shoulders, and 2 pairs of colorful wings appeared. Then, she flapped them and gradually broke away from the shackles of the earth. Patriarch. We can fly. Jun Changshao said proudly, although the restriction here can prohibit martial artists from flying, how can it prohibit goods that transcend the restrictions of heaven and earth? At this moment, he was no longer shouting about being independent and wanting to break away from the city. Swoosh. The rainbow wings spread out and flew up. Whoosh. Whoosh. The 2 turned into streamers and soared in the sky. Coincidentally, they took the same route as man number 3. Suddenly, the man was stunned and his eyes flashed with disbelief. He said, "How can these two people fly?" The area Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing were in was a red grassland. It took them a full hour to fly out of the grassland. They were flying over a vast primitive forest. They had seen a lot of forests. However, this place was a little different. Because there was a stone tower with complicated patterns engraved on it every once in a while. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "What is this stone tower used for?" From the looks of it, it's similar to a signal base station. Maybe it's used to transmit messages. Jun Changshao guessed. The system said, "Why don't you say it's a 5G base station?" Patriarch. Yao Menjing pointed ahead and said, "There seems to be a city there." Jun Changshao looked up and found that at the end of his field of vision, the outline of a city that seemed to be embedded in the mountains and rivers gradually appeared. From afar, it looked like a tiger sitting on the ground. It doesn't look like a human's architectural style. Could it be, this is really the demonic region? As they spoke, the two sped up and soon stopped in the sky above the city that was completely made of stone. Whether it was the city walls, the city gates, or the internal buildings, they were indeed of a human style. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "There's no one in the city." The city was not small, but there was no one on the streets. Because of the atmosphere, it felt like a ghost city in a horror movie. That's strange. Jun Changshao was puzzled. This place doesn't seem to have been damaged by external forces. Why can't I see a single living thing? It's not just that. The system said, there were no animals in the primitive forest that the host just passed. Are they all dead? At this moment, Jun Changshao's expression gradually stiffened. Because his spiritual senses had spread to a place that looked like a military camp outside the city. On the drill ground stood stone statues in armor and holding sharp blades. There were not many of them, but there were at least tens of thousands of them. Outside, at the altar. Although the great guardian was depressed for a long time, a smile gradually appeared on his face. He said, "After breaking the seal and entering this time, the demonic army of 1,000,000 will definitely see the light of day again. When that time comes, our ancestor will wave his arm and the entire upper realm will tremble." Chapter 15-14. On the drill ground outside the city, Yao Menjing opened her small mouth, her eyes filled with shock. In front of her, lifelike statues were neatly arranged. They were wearing armor and holding spears. Even the smallest details were outlined. They were no different from real people. The most shocking thing was that these statues had single eyelids and double eyelids. Some were tall and some were short. They all had different appearances, which meant that they were not carved from the same mold. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said in surprise, "These statues are so lifelike." Jun Changshao walked out from the group of soldiers and shook his head. "These are not statues. These are real living beings." He did not use humans to describe them. Although the soldiers had noses and eyes and had human features, from the height of 2 to 3 meters, they might be Moong soldiers. Real living beings. Yao Menjing said, "Patriarch, what do you mean?" Jun Changshao sat on a similar platform and interlocked his fingers. "If I'm not wrong, these living beings should have been sealed by some kind of power, which is why they are in a state of absolute petrification. No wonder they are different." Yao Menjing said in realization, "So they are all real people. From their standing posture, they should have undergone strict training. I wonder how strong they were before they were petrified." Jun Changshao said. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "What is this?" Jun Changshao turned around and saw the girl standing on the platform with one hand on the wall engraved with a handprint. He hurriedly said, "Don't touch it." It was too late. Yao Menjing had already put her hand on it. Buzz. The moment her palm touched the handprint, a visible energy ripple spread out from the drill ground and swept across the thousands of statues. Crack crack. Crack crack crack. There was a cracking sound. Girl. Jun Changxiao hurriedly stood up and said with a serious face, "Come over here quickly." Yao Menjing hurriedly retreated and leaned behind the patriarch. She lowered her head like a child who had done something wrong. "Patriarch, did I trigger some kind of trap?" "Of course." Jun Changxiao was speechless. It must have been triggered. If it were rows of flowers, Gou Sheng would have probably roared at her. Of course, the former had been fighting everywhere and had seen all kinds of situations. Naturally, she would not make such a low-level mistake. Caca. Caw caw caw. Cracks began to appear on the tens of thousands of statues, and then large chunks of them fell off. Jun Changxiao's guess was correct. These soldiers had indeed been sealed, because after the stones fell off, real armor was revealed. Who? Who? Breathe in and out. Patriarch. Yao Menjing exclaimed, "They're still alive." Jun Changxiao did not speak. He had already entered a state of absolute vigilance. Shua. At this moment, the 10,000 soldiers who had broken free from the petrification power opened their eyes in unison. Their eyes flickered with a crimson light, and an extremely sinister demonic aura surged around them. It was as if a group of demons had awakened from hell. After a quick analysis, the system exclaimed, "They are all first transition." Jun Changxiao's eyes widened. 10,000 soldiers all had the strength of a first revolution revolving core realm cultivator. This was simply too shocking. Gou Sheng had always fantasized that if all his disciples were at the core transformation realm, the scene would be as beautiful as a painting. Now that he had seen it for himself, and an entire army at that, just the aura alone was very shocking. Swish. Swish. The demonic aura that emerged gradually separated and then gathered on the chest armor of the soldiers. Gradually, the word demon was outlined, and it flickered with a gorgeous luster. It had the style of the logo of the prodigal eye. Undeniably, it was very cool. However, Jun Changxiao did not think so. In his opinion, the visual effect was far inferior to his 1,000 Diablo. Kill. The 10,000 demonic soldiers shouted in a low and hoarse voice, and the crimson light in their eyes became more intense. As expected, Jun Changxiao shook his head. Unfriendly. The battle intent of 10,000 first transition core transformation soldiers in excellent equipment was indeed intimidating. However, Jun Changxiao was not afraid at all. Because his strength was at the 7th transition. Lass. Jun Chang laughed and said, "Stay away from me. I will take on these demonic tribe soldiers." Okay. Yao Menjing hurriedly retreated. Then, the scene changed. She was wearing a cheerleading uniform and holding a colorful ball with both hands. "Go, Patriarch. System, come." Jun Changxiao raised his hand, and the great sage Sect quickly gathered around him. He held the green dragon crescent blade in front of him and said, "Let's fight to our heart's content." Under normal circumstances, the 7th transition would definitely be a one-round fight with his eyes closed. However, 10,000 first transition core transformation soldiers were a little overwhelming, so Gou Sheng had to give them enough respect. "Be gentle," the system said, "don't damage the armor." Of course. Why did Jun Changxiao want to fight? It was not because he had not fought for too long and wanted to stretch his body. It was also not because the author wanted to take the opportunity to make a scene. It was because he was interested in the soldiers' equipment. Although he already had the formula of the 8 desolate heavenly sound set, he could not mass-produce it because of the limited materials. If he could snatch these equipment and give it to Fan Yezi to modify, it should be able to increase his disciples' strength. At the beginning of the game, he had to rely on snatching equipment. Kill. Kill. The 10,000 demonic soldiers were still shouting in a low voice. The demonic aura around them was also increasing. From afar, it looked like a huge black cloud was covering the drill ground. Swoosh! Swoosh! Finally, they could not help but rush over with their sharp blades. Because of their physique and the weight of their armor, the whole ground shook. Jun Changshao sneered and waved his blade. A light ray swept across in an arc. Ding! The blade light, which carried the power of the true spirit, hit the breastplates of the soldiers at the front. Although they were sent flying, only faint marks were left on their bodies. The quality is not low, the system said. Jun Changxiao's eyes shone with a burning light. He said, "They are all mine." Good armor was what his disciple needed the most. Therefore, he had to take them all today no matter what. In order to prevent the armor from being damaged, Jun Changxiao kept his green dragon crescent blade and said excitedly, "I am going to take off the armor." Thud thud thud. He charged into the enemy with his bare hands. With the power of the true spirit in his fingers, he smoothly unlocked a soldier's armor and quickly kept it in his space ring. Taking off someone's armor in a fight. Probably only Go Sheng could do this. At the darkness altar, the great guardian said proudly, "The 1,000,000 demonic army that was trained by my ancestor not only have rank 1 cultivation, but also have excellent demonic armor. As long as the seal is broken and they appear in the upper realm, it will definitely shake the world." Sigh. The black-robed man shook his head and sighed. It is a pity that the demonic armor's manufacturing method is sealed in the demonic region. If our buried moon pavilion could get it in advance, we would have created a strong army to fight against the realm hall. When the 10 innate demonic bodies break the seal, we can enter the demonic region at will and easily find the manufacturing method. The great guardian said. That's right. The black-robed man clenched his fist and said, "I can't wait." Demonic region, on the drill ground. 10,000 tall and burly soldiers were lying on the ground in a mess. They were all knocked out and only had thin underwear on them. It was obvious that their armor had been taken off by the shameless Go Sheng. Swoosh! Jun Changxiao waved his hand and kept the weapons scattered on the ground into his space ring. He clapped his hands and said, "Let's go and take a look at other places. Maybe we can still find the sealed demonic soldiers." Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 rays of light streaked across the sky and went in a direction. As expected. About 2 hours later, Jun Changxiao and Yao Menjing arrived at another city. There was also a military camp here, and there were also sealed demonic race soldiers. We are rich. Chapter 15:15. Swish. Jun Changxiao and Yao Menjing flew away from the second city they discovered. The camera turned back and saw the tens of thousands of soldiers who had just been released from the sealed state. All of them had lost their armor and were lying unconscious on the ground with bruises all over their faces. In fact, they were quite lucky. Fortunately, Go Sheng did not have any equipment that could hold a large number of creatures. Otherwise, they would not only lose their equipment, but also themselves. Speaking of which, could the Tianyuan prison pagoda not be installed? It could be, but the space was limited. Therefore, after weighing the pros and cons, Jun Changxiao decided to only take away the equipment and weapons. Of course. Some people would be puzzled. The Moang tribe was tall and strong, and their armor was also very big. How could the disciples who were robbed wear it? This problem was not within the scope of Jun Changxiao's consideration because it was up to Fan Yezi. In short, the sect did not raise idle people. They had to play to their strengths. Patriarch. After flying for a while, Yao Menjing said excitedly, "There's another city in front. Let's go." The two sped up and soon stopped above the third city. In terms of scale, this city was obviously bigger than the previous two. There were many weapons on the city wall. It should be an important place in the Moang territory. TSK, TSK. Jun Changshao landed on the city wall. Looking at the cannon-like weapons, he said, "It looks like a field cannon. Take it. Take it all." Go Xing did not hesitate at all. He took the hundreds of weapons scattered around the city wall into his space ring. Then, he looked outside the city and saw another military camp. "Wow!" Yao Menjing said in surprise, "There are so many soldiers." The previous two cities had tens of thousands of soldiers in the military camp. This military camp had 50,000 soldiers. Jun Changshao grinned. To others, these Moang tribe soldiers were very dangerous. But to him, they were no different from treasures. Swish! Swish! The two landed on the stage. There was still a special handprint on the wall behind, which meant that it could be activated by touching it. Strangely enough, in the barracks of the second city, Jun Changshao had raised his hand and pressed it, but it didn't have any effect. Later on, it was Yao Menjing who successfully revived them. The system guessed, it should be because of the innate holy demon body. Las. Jun Changshao said, "Go ahead and trigger it." Yes. Yao Menjing walked over, but just as she was about to place her palm on it, Go Xing stopped her. "Wait a minute." Hoo. Jun Changshao flew up and released his true spirit power, lifting up the petrified soldiers and sending them to the wilderness. With the previous two experiences, he could more or less determine that the soldiers here were definitely at the first transition level. If all of them were to be revived, he might not be able to handle them. Therefore, he had split up in advance and defeated them one by one. The system was speechless. "Why don't we just set up a formation to seal them off? That makes sense." Jun Changshao was suddenly inspired. He turned around and flew back. Then, he began to set up formation flags and set up a formation. In an instant, a light barrier was formed, sealing off the petrified soldiers. After working for half a day, the 50,000 soldiers in the barracks were all split up. Las. Jun Changshao shouted, "Release the seal." Pa! Yao Menjing pressed her palm on it, and ripple-like energy rippled again. Ka ka ka. Ka 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 ka. Their bodies cracked, and rocks fell off. However, when the Moang soldiers regained their senses, they found themselves in the light barrier. Question marks appeared on their faces. "Where am I? What is this place?" "Everyone." Jun Changshao slowly appeared above the light like a creator and said, "You should be able to understand human language, so please throw away your weapons and take off your armor as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will come personally." The Moang soldiers naturally wouldn't listen to him obediently. They immediately released a strong demonic aura and raised their weapons. Not cooperating. Jun Changshao shook his head. "Then I will have to come personally." Boom! Boom! Not long after, the 10,000 soldiers all fainted on the ground. Their armor and weapons were all taken away. Jun Changshao went to other isolation arrays. Finally, he stood on top of the city tower and sang loudly, "We, the people, are so happy tonight." Yao Menjing covered her ears and blocked her hearing. He was so skillful that it made one's heart ache. Fortunately, the array successfully isolated the sound from the outside world. Otherwise, the tens of thousands of Moang soldiers lying inside would definitely be fatally injured even if they were already unconscious. After obtaining another 50,000 sets of armor and weapons, Jun Changshao didn't leave the city immediately. This was because he found a foundry near the barracks. So, he walked over curiously. Entering the huge factory, there were all kinds of foundry facilities. These should be used to produce equipment. Jun Changshao walked to a foundry and saw that the mold inside was very similar to the shape of the armor. So, he confirmed his guess. The system said, such a big foundry is enough to show that the Moang tribe has an extremely high level of craftsmanship and great ambition. So, Jun Changshao spread his hands and said, they were destroyed by the 10 major immortal sects and the various clans. The soldiers were powerful and well-equipped. If they went out to do something big, the various sects and forces would definitely not be able to handle it. Suddenly, Jun Changshao realized that Yao Menjing and the other 8 possessors of the innate demon body were teleported to the Moang territory. Could it be a plan of the buried moon pavilion to prepare for the resurrection of the demon lord? Very likely. The system said, after all, these well-equipped soldiers are too powerful. If they appear in the upper realm, it will definitely bring a great catastrophe. Haha. Jun Changshao smiled and said, since I'm here, how can I let them do as they wish? Swish. He turned to look at the camera and stroked his black hair coquettishly. Please call me the little prince of trouble. Since he found the foundry and so many foundry facilities, with Jun Changshao's style, he would definitely put them all into the space ring. Patriarch. Yao Menjing stood in a room that looked like an office and said, there are many books here. Oh. Jun Changshao walked in. There were rows of bookshelves in the room, and many ancient books were placed on them. He casually took a book and opened it to read, but it was filled with messy words. This is the language of the Moang tribe. The system said. Jun Changshao opened the technique pavilion and found that it could not be used to match, so he said with certainty, it's not martial arts. Nonsense. The system was speechless. The books in the foundry must be related to forging. Jun Changshao flipped through a few more pages. Some of them were drawings of armors. Because he could not understand the words, he did not know what the remarks meant. The system said, this is the method to make armors. You can understand it? Of course, I can easily decipher any text in front of me. Awesome. Jun Changshao kept all the books into the space ring. With the foundry table and the books on forging armors, he could place them in the sect and let Fan Yezi try to forge them. This way, there would be no need for retirement. Patriarch. Yao Menjing shouted, there are many blueprints on the table. Jun Changshao leaned over with interest and found that there were drawings of different styles of armors, and there were remarks in the language of the Moang tribe on each part. What is this? From the literal translation, it should be the second generation of armors. What? Jun Changshao was surprised. The Moang tribe is very good at researching equipment. Needless to say, he would definitely take it. On the foundry peak, after Fan Yezi finished the last batch of Diablo parts, he wiped the sweat off his forehead and panted. It's finally done. I can finally rest for a while. Chapter 15-16. It was hard to imagine that there would be a complete equipment production line, books, and blueprints in the sealed city of Moang region. Jun Changshao sighed, the demon ancestor is a person who does great things. With a powerful army and equipment production, if he were to go out and cause trouble, the upper realm would definitely be the one to get hurt. Go Xing did not know much about the past, but after visiting several cities in Moang region, he suddenly realized that it was not unreasonable for the 10 great immortal sects to destroy this race. After all, it was too dangerous. What a pity. Jun Changshao covered his face, leaned back, and laughed eerily, it's all mine. The system was powerless to complain. Every time he laughed like a villain, he could not change his bad habit. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, let's go to other places. There must be more good things waiting for me. Go Xing did not like the demon ancestor. After all, he had tried to take over Yao Menjing's body to be resurrected. So, since he had come to the other party's nest, he would take away as much as he could. And the worst thing was that when this guy left the military base, he did not remove the isolation formations that he had set up. He was still trapping the tens of thousands of unconscious soldiers. Next. Jun Changshao went to several cities of different sizes. As long as there were petrified statues in the barracks, he used the old method to bind them with formations and then took away the equipment and weapons. When Go Xing crossed the border, nothing was left. Outside, the Great Guardian and the black-robed warrior were still fantasizing about the Moang region's seal being completely removed. With a wave of the demon ancestor's arm, millions of Moang army would gather. Yes. Millions of soldiers in their underwear gathered. It was quite interesting. However, the prerequisite was that they had to break the formation first. The camera moved to the west, which was the West Sea area. The black light still maintained the momentum of breaking through the clouds. Although the 10 great immortal Sect experts had rushed over early, they could only stand in the distance. Because there was nothing else there other than the rising phenomenon. Stop. There was no way to do it. In fact, it was useless to stop it, because this phenomenon was meant to attract them. The real location of the demon ancestor's resurrection was in the dark environment of the boiling blood pool. The huge blood shadow splashed on the wall flickered with colorful light and gradually became real. This was a three-front battle. First, the natural phenomenon attracted firepower. Second, the 10 innate demon bodies opened the passage to the Moang region. Third, the body reconstruction. As expected, the resurrection of the demon ancestor had become a fact. When he returned to the upper realm and entered the demonic domain to summon his army, what awaited the upper realm would be endless disasters. Plop. Plop. Inside the isolation formation, the demonic tribe soldiers who had just been activated fell one by one. Their armors and weapons were all taken away. Pa! The demon ancestor to the demon ancestor to Moang to the Moang to the Moang region. It had been more than half a day since they entered the demonic region. He and Yao Menjing had visited 10 cities and obtained nearly 200,000 sets of armor and weapons. It was a bountiful harvest. Jun Changshao would only complain that it was too little, not too much. Even if he couldn't fit all of them, he could still sell them. If the ancestral demon, who was at the critical juncture of his revival, knew that the equipment that he had spent a great deal of effort and resources to create when he was alive had been stolen by an outsider, the first thing he would do when he opened his eyes would be vomiting blood. The amount of blood he spat out would definitely increase. That's right. The system said, from the translation of the words on the city gate, this is indeed the main city of the demon ancestor. It's so damn big. At this moment, Jun Changshao was in the air above a huge circular city. There were wide streets inside the city, and the buildings along the sides looked very imposing. In particular, there were magnificent buildings in the central area, giving people the feeling that this place was a forbidden area of an imperial palace. Demon Ancestor City. The main hall represented a sect. The main city naturally represented a country or clan. It was no different from other cities. It was still lifeless. There were no living creatures. Strange. Jun Changshao was puzzled. Why do I only see the soldiers and not the residents? This question had been bothering him for a long time. If it was sealed by some powerful force, why did it only seal the soldiers? What about the ordinary people living in it? Moreover, who was the one who sealed the soldiers? Jun Changshao guessed that it might be the 10 great sects and clans, but he quickly dismissed the idea. After all, Yao Menjing broke it with just a touch of her palm. That was too careless. The system said, maybe it was sealed by one of our own. I think so too. Jun Changshao agreed. Yao Menjing had the innate holy devil body, so she could unlock the seal by touching the palm print. However, there was no effect when she reached out her hand, which meant that the mystery lay in her physique or bloodline. Is there such a possibility? Jun Changshao guessed, 100,000 years ago, the demon ancestor realized that his time was coming, so he used some kind of sacred art to seal the soldiers in advance, waiting for the day to be unsealed. The system said, "That's possible. I went to a few cities and didn't see any residents. Maybe it has something to do with the demon ancestors' sacred art." For example, Jun Changxiao's expression suddenly became serious, and said, "Sacrificing your life. The host's imagination is a little wild." Jun Changxiao's guess was well-founded. After all, one of the demon ancestors' resurrection plans in the land of demon fate was to sacrifice the devil cultivator to be reborn. 100,000 years ago, using the lives of the clansmen to continue the soldiers, leaving them to rise again in the future. That must be it. Gou Xing confirmed his guess in his heart. This would explain why there were so many cities with only soldiers and no residents, and why they could be revived so easily. So what if the host knows? Jun Changxiao was dumbfounded by the system's question. That's right. Even if I know the cause and effect, what's the use? Moreover, as far as I can see, the demon ancestor's resurrection place is not in Moang City. Wait. Jun Changxiao slapped his forehead and said, "If that guy is not resurrecting here, why did the 10 physiques come in? Could it be that they were specially sent to remove the seal, and then work together with the resurrected demon ancestor? If that's the case, once the demon ancestor is resurrected, the entire upper realm will be plunged into misery and suffering." The system paused and said, "Now that the host is in Moang City, it's equivalent to carrying the heavy responsibility of saving the world." Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, "I don't have that ability." Gou Xing firmly believed that if the demon ancestor was successfully resurrected, one look would be enough to torture him. Not necessarily. The system said, "Resurrection is a heaven-defying act. Even if it succeeds, it will be limited. Maybe its cultivation after resurrection will not be as high as the host's." "Are you sure?" "Refer to Yi Xingqian and Gu Zhaoxi." "That's right, my disciple and brother, one is the reincarnation of a great emperor, and the other is an infinite reincarnation. Although the latter will become stronger every time he dies, in the end, won't he still have to cultivate from the beginning? What's even more important is, the system said, the demon ancestor needs to reconstruct his physical body. Even if he retains his cultivation when he was alive, there will definitely be an adaptation period. It might take hundreds or thousands of years." "That makes sense." Jun Changxiao gradually felt relieved. An old guy who had been dead for 100,000 years, even if he was resurrected, it did not seem that scary. "I understand now." Jun Changxiao said in realization, maybe the demon ancestor knows that he will not be able to reach his cultivation level in the shortest time after his resurrection, so he sealed the soldiers in advance so that he would have the combat power to contend with the 10 major sects after his resurrection. "We can't rule out this possibility," the system said. Jun Changxiao stood up and looked at the hundreds of thousands of statues gathered in the military camp in the distance. He grinned and said, "These are the demon ancestor's wings. If we cut them off in advance, won't he become a general without an army? The host destroyed a few third-class forbidden areas earlier, and his reputation has dropped severely. If we can resolve the crisis of the demon ancestor's resurrection this time, it can be completely washed clean, and no one will be able to find fault with it. Moreover," the system said, "resolving the world's crisis might greatly increase the sect's reputation." Clap. Jun Changxiao clapped and said heroically, "For the thousands of living beings, for the common people of the world, Jun Changxiao will take on this heavy responsibility." Chapter 15-17. The demon ancestor was very pitiful. Because Jun Changxiao had guessed most of the plan. That's right, he was worried that it would be difficult to restore his strength to its peak in the shortest time after his resurrection, so he sealed the million-strong army in advance and waited for his summons. To be exact, these soldiers were actually ready to do something big 100,000 years ago, but because the 10 immortal sects and various clans acted first, they could only seal themselves temporarily. The demon ancestor was considered a hero of his generation. Therefore, this resurrection would definitely bring disaster to the upper realm. It was not a big problem. The troublemaking Prince Jun Changshao was in the Moang territory. Even if he did not have the ability to stop the demon ancestor's resurrection, since he had guessed his intention, he would definitely find a way to cut off his wings. In fact, in the Falling Star continent, Go Xing really did not want to be a savior, but because of various reasons, he always accidentally saved the world. This might be my fate. Jun Changshao sat on the city wall with his back bent. His back revealed the aura of a great hero, for the country and the people. Stop pretending. The system said, hurry up and act. Swoosh. Jun Changshao jumped down from the city and landed in a larger military camp outside the main city. There were more soldiers here, as many as 300,000. They should be the most elite army in the entire Moang tribe. What a pity. Jun Changshao said, I can't use them. Such professional soldiers with high strength, if the conditions allowed, he would definitely be more willing to directly control them instead of just taking away their weapons and equipment. Patriarch. Yao Menjing pointed to the statues at the front of the drill ground and said, the armor they're wearing is very similar to the ones drawn on the map. Jun Changshao said, it should be the second-generation armor. Just from the petrified form, the second-generation armor was obviously more impressive than the first-generation armor, and should be stronger in terms of combat. They might be at the level of a general. There were a total of 8 people standing at the front of the team wearing the second-generation armor. Judging from their physique and demeanor, it was obvious that soldiers A, B, C, and D could not be compared to them. The system said, there must be masters in such a large tribe. Maybe they're fierce generals under the demon ancestor. Then I can't just simply unseal them. Jun Changshao became vigilant. Let's assume that they were all generals of the army, they might not be weak. If he released the seal rashly, if they were rank 8 or 9, or had reached the truth-seeking realm, he would definitely die. Swish. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking could be heard from afar. Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing both turned their heads to look. At the end of their vision, they saw a stream of light slowly rising into the sky before merging into the folded space. Buzz buzz buzz. The enchantment that enveloped the entire domain loomed. Not good. Jun Changshao's expression changed slightly, and he said, someone is trying to break the seal that exists in the demonic region. The system said, it must be the 8 demonic cultivators who came in together. Lass. Jun Changshao said, let's go. If the soldiers in the demonic territory were used to assist the resurrected demon lord, then the most important thing now was to prevent the seal from being broken. Otherwise, there would be a huge problem. Buzz. Whine. Buzz. In the outside world, the whirlpool that converged at the sacrificial altar also began to tremble along with the shaking of the space in the demonic domain. Found it. The great guardian said ecstatically, we found the place of the seal. He and the black-robed man did not leave the sacrificial altar for long because they were waiting for this moment. Now, it was finally here. The 10 immortal sects, the various major clans. Start trembling. Gurgle gurgle. In the blood pool in the dark area, the blood boiled even more intensely. The blood stains of the spirit star splattered on the wall, adding another stroke to the gradually materializing huge shadow. Our ancestor is about to be resurrected. The black-robed old men sitting in the 4 positions stood up excitedly. The leader took out a ball with dark attribute rolling inside and carefully placed it in the groove of the stone platform closest to him. On this day. Suddenly, a sinister voice came from inside the ball. I have waited for 100,000 years, and it is finally here. If Jun Changshao was present, he would have immediately realized that the person speaking was the demon lord who had set up 2 resurrection plans consecutively. Honorable Master. The black-robed old man placed one hand on his chest and said sincerely, the 10 chess pieces have successfully entered the ancestral land and are breaking the seal. When you are successfully resurrected, you can command the million-strong army. Good. Very good. The 10 immortal sects annihilated the demon clan. When I return, I will make them pay back 10,000 times. Gurgle gurgle. The blood in the blood pool boiled even more. The huge shadow that seemed to be engraved on the wall gradually protruded and had the appearance of a body. The body was formed, and the remnant soul was fused. It was time for the demon lord to be resurrected. Jun Changshao, who was worried sick about Yixingchen and Pei Aniu, would be dazzled when he saw this thing because he lacked a body to completely separate the two. Demon territory. Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing used the rainbow dazzling light wings to fly to the area where the flowing light soared into the sky. In the wilderness, there was a circular stone platform with complicated patterns on it. Number 2 stood on it and roared. The light that stirred the seal came from his mouth. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The pattern under his feet flickered with dark light, and a strong demonic aura spread out. Innate demonic body. When they were making up the numbers at the altar, the physiques of the 9 people, including Yao Menjing, had been stimulated to open up the whirlpool that connected to the demonic domain. Therefore, Jun Changshao was able to tell right away. Whoosh! Suddenly, the innate demonic body that was forced out was entangled in the flowing light, and then flew up in a spiral shape, apparently to collide with the enchantment used to seal the entire demon territory. Hurry up and stop it. The system said. Whoosh! Jun Changshao immediately flew up, and the power of the true spirit burst out, turning into a solid giant hand and grabbing at the rising innate demonic body. Whoosh whoosh! Like a slap to the face, the black stream of light was caught in the palm of his hand and squeaked like a mouse. Bang! Jun Changshao landed and said coldly, "With me here, no one can break the seal of the demon territory." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the innate demonic body rushed out. Damn it! Isn't it too slippery? Jun Changshao hurriedly chased, and this time the innate demonic body was faster than before. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the sky along with the flowing light, and was very close to the enchantment. Oh no! It's too late. Whoosh! At this time, Yao Menjing flapped the colorful wings and hung at the connection point between the flowing light and the enchantment, and said with a tense face, "Stop." Ga. The innate demonic body that rushed up like a mouse suddenly came to a sudden stop under Meng Meng's stare. How can this work? Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, "I can control the innate demonic body." Physiques and attributes were unique, and unless used some means, they would not recognize other martial artists. However, when the second man's physique flew out, she felt a sense of affinity. Come here. Whoosh! A wisp of innate demonic body flew over and lingered on Yao Menjing's arm. Jun Changshao said, "Is it because of the innate saint demon body that you can control the inferior innate demonic body?" It should be, right? Yao Menjing asked weakly, "Patriarch, can I take this innate demonic body for myself?" As long as you can subdue it, the other 7 are also yours. Chapter 15-18. Yao Menjing had a strong affinity with man number 2's innate demonic body. She felt that it was like her own, so she had the idea of occupying it. But it seemed a little wrong, so she asked the patriarch. If not for the limited space in the Tianyuan prison pagoda, Jun Changshao, who wanted to fit the entire Moang territory inside, would definitely not object. If allowed, it would not be a problem to let the disciples occupy the other 7. This is very gaucheng. The system complained. Don't misunderstand. Jun Changshao explained, "I am doing this for the world." Obviously, the innate demonic body was going to attack the sealing enchantment along the stream of light. If Yao Menjing could take it for herself and control it, wouldn't the problem be solved? The system complained weakly, "You win. Patriarch, I want to refine it." Yao Menjing landed and sat on the ground. She released her mind to envelop the innate demonic body and began to take it for herself. Jun Changshao locked his eyes on man number 2 who was spitting out light and said, "This guy should be controlled. I will wake him up." Bang! The camera turned and the right foot hit his face. Hardcore, awake. Plop. Man number 2 flew out of the stone platform and bounced on the ground several times before landing 100 feet away. A big footprint was clearly visible on his face. Without driving, the stream of light dissipated. The excited Great Guardian outside found that the vortex suddenly stopped trembling, and his expression suddenly froze. "What's the situation?" The black-robed man was surprised. "The Moang territory hasn't broken the seal yet. Why did it suddenly stop? Could it be an accident?" As soon as the Great Guardian finished speaking, the vortex trembled regularly again. So he was relieved and smiled, "Isn't it starting again?" Jun Changshao, who had just rescued man number 2, looked up and found another stream of light in the east. He frowned. "There is more than one seal." The system said, "From the number of people who came in, there should be 10 seals." Patriarch. At this moment, Yao Menjing stood up and said, "The refining is done." So fast. Surprise appeared on Jun Changshao's face. If constitution was compared to attributes, even if it could be absorbed, it would take time to digest. This girl had done it in just 1 minute. The process was too easy and casual. Patriarch, Yao Menjing lowered her voice and said, "After fusing with the innate demon body, I broke through to the 3rd rank." What? Jun Changshao almost jumped up. Yao Menjing had just benefited from the land of demonic affinity and was still far from breaking through. Now that she had fused with a demonic cultivator's physique, her strength had risen by a whole level. This was a little terrifying. "Go. I'll bring you to the second one." At this moment, even if it wasn't for the sake of the world, Jun Changshao had to let his disciples obtain the physiques of the other 8 people. After all, it might be an opportunity. Yeah. The system said, "This is the host's nature. Dear reader, come and slander him." In the area where the light was flickering, there was also a stone platform with complicated patterns on it. A woman in a black robe stood in it, spitting out light from her mouth, shaking the seal enchantment in the sky. Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing rushed over as fast as they could. Because of their previous experience, they hovered nearby and waited for the innate demon body to appear. Sure enough. After a while, the black attribute emerged like a snake and rushed up along the light. "Girl, I'll leave it to you." N. Yao Menjing, who had long been prepared, flew over and then stopped in mid-air, shouting, "Stop." The innate demon body hurriedly stopped and lingered on her arm like an obedient baby. Witnessing the process again, Jun Changshao said with certainty, "The girl's innate saint devil body can definitely suppress the innate demon body." The system said, according to the Zhangyue Pavilion branch leader, the demon ancestor separated the 10 innate demon bodies before he fell. Perhaps they came from the innate saint devil body. It's possible. Jun Changshao agreed. The system said again, "Since there are 2 owners attacking the enchantment in succession, does it mean that only 10 innate demon bodies can break the seal and let the demonic territory reappear in the world?" Jun Changshao's eyes lit up and said, "If that's the case, as long as Menjing takes all the remaining physiques for herself, it is equivalent to becoming the key to opening the seal, and all the problems will not be a problem." While he was talking with the system, Yao Menjing sat cross-legged on the ground and began to skillfully fuse with the second innate demon body. Because she had an extremely high affinity, this kind of physique that did not belong to her was quickly absorbed into her body and perfectly fused with her own physique. The entire process took less than a minute. Patriarch. I broke through to the 4th grade. Jun Changshao almost cried. When he leveled up, he had to put in a lot of effort to complete the epic mission. She broke through just by fusing with her physique. In the outside world, the whirlpool stopped trembling again. The reason was that Jun Changshao kicked the first woman out in the same way as he did with the second man. Why did it stop again? The Great Protector and the black-robed old man collapsed again. Buzz. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the whirlpool continued to tremble, and this made the two revive with full health again. They guessed that this was the necessary procedure to break the seal. Sure enough. Not long after, it stopped again. Ha ha ha. The Great Protector laughed and said, "Don't worry, this should be a normal phenomenon." Buzz. After a while, the whirlpool trembled again. After appearing so many times in a row, the Great Protector and the black-robed man were completely relieved, so if it stopped again, they would definitely face it calmly. The 8 innate demon body inheritors in the Moang territory would appear on the fixed stone platform almost every once in a while to stimulate the flowing light. Jun Changshao and Yao Menjing were always able to stop the innate demon bodies that rushed over. Plop. The fourth man, who seemed to have lost his mind, flew out, and his right face was kicked all the way to the ground before he stopped. Jun Changshao retracted his foot and clapped his hands, 2 more. Yao Menjing sat cross-legged in the distance and used the fastest time to fuse with the 6th innate demon body. She scratched her head and said, "Patriarch, I broke through to rank 8. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched slightly. 6 innate demon bodies, all the way from rank 2 to rank 8. From now on, I will remove the title of cheater, because I am not worthy. In a dark environment. A cold voice came from the sphere placed on the stone platform. Have you found the girl who obtained my innate demon body from the land of demonic affinity? Lord Ancestor, I have found her. The black-robed old man said respectfully, the person who obtained your bloodline inheritance is a disciple of the Sect of all times. Sect of all times? The demon ancestor's remnant soul said, what sect is this? The black-robed old man hurriedly told him about the Sect of all times. Because he had just ascended from the upper realm, there was not much to do, so he finished quickly. TSK. The demon ancestor's remnant soul said in surprise, ascending to the upper realm with a Sect mountain, this is probably unprecedented. Lord Ancestor. The black-robed old man said with a solemn expression, the master of this Sect of all times patriarch is Zhenren Tonggu, a peak truth-seeking expert. We do not dare to rashly snatch that disciple. No worries. The demon ancestor said indifferently, the physique belongs to me, even if it is obtained by an outsider, it is just a tool. After I revive, whether it is the 10 innate demon bodies or the innate demon body, they will all become energy and return to my body. At that time, the million demon army will also listen to my orders, no one dares to disobey. The last 4 words were said with a very imposing aura, instantly setting off the demeanor of a formidable person. Chapter 15:19. Fusing with 6 innate demon bodies and raising her cultivation level by 6 levels. Yao Menjing's rapid cultivation speed made Jun Changshao cry with envy. If she fused with the remaining 2, wouldn't she break through to the peak of the revolving core realm from the 8th rank? Wait. There's another one outside. Fuck. Jun Changshao collapsed in his heart. She's definitely at the truth-seeking realm. Don't cry, host. The system comforted him. As long as you're brave enough to refresh the store, your cultivation speed might not be slower than mine. Bullshit. Jun Changshao roared, can you let me break through several ranks in a few hours? The system was silent. Indeed, Yao Menjing's breakthrough method was too fast. Even if there were items in the store that could raise one's cultivation level, it was impossible for it to be so fast. Swish. At this moment, another stream of light rose into the sky from another direction. Girl. Jun Changshao hurriedly said, let's go. At this moment, he already knew that whenever a stream of light appeared, it must be the owner of the physique trying to break the seal. This would expose their coordinates, allowing him to easily find them. Boom! On the 7th stone platform, the 4th woman was kicked down. Yao Menjing continued to absorb. As expected, after fusing with the innate demon body, her cultivation level rose from the 8th rank to the 9th rank. The current her was fully deserving of the title of Nan Bo Wan in the sect of all times. Even Gu Zhaoxi had to lower himself to be second. When he first transmigrated to the falling star continent, Jun Changxiao's cultivation level was lower than his disciples for a period of time. After that, he was never surpassed again. Now that a disciple had finally caught up, it was truly worth celebrating. Of course, Gou Sheng was also happy for Yao Menjing's improvement. After all, when a disciple became stronger, it was equivalent to the sect becoming stronger. At most, he, as the patriarch, would have to lie down in the future. Girl. Jun Changxiao said seriously, in the future, the sect will rely on you young people to hold up the world. Don't let me down. You're already lying down. The system was speechless. Yao Menjing nodded heavily and said, I will definitely do my best for the sect. While the two were talking, another stream of light soared into the sky. So they hurriedly rushed over and used the previous method to stop the innate demon body and began refining. Whoosh! Hoo. After fusing with the 8th physique, Yao Menjing exuded a vast aura. She said, Patriarch, I have stepped into the peak of the revolving core realm. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched, but then he said seriously, there's still one more. The Buried Moon Pavilion branch leader had said that the demon ancestor had split into 10 natural demon bodies. When all of them appeared in the upper realm, it would be the day of their resurrection. Now that the phenomenon had appeared, it meant that the 10th one had already arrived. However, he had come here to make up the numbers, so where was the 10th person? Outside. The whirlpool stopped trembling again. The Great Guardian's expression was very calm. He was even guessing that since the phenomenon had appeared intermittently for such a long time, the seal should be about to be broken. The black-robed man said, according to the secret records left behind by my ancestor, 10 innate fiend bodies are needed to lift the seal. Now that there is still one outside, I'm afraid it will be difficult to meet the requirements. This, the Great Protector's expression turned serious. He did not know who had replaced the 10th physique to enter, but to be able to fuse with the other 9 and open the entrance to the demonic region together meant that it had to be a fiend cultivator. It had to be one of them. However, entering was one thing. Whether or not the seal could be broken was another matter. Easy. After a short silence, the Great Protector glanced at the 10th person standing beside him and said, since he has the innate fiend body, he should be able to enter without any restrictions. As he spoke, he grabbed the 10th person and threw him into the whirlpool. Swish! The 10th person successfully passed through the barrier. After stabilizing himself, he looked at the unfamiliar world and asked in confusion, what is this place? He was the same as the previous 8 physiques. At first, he had lost his mind and was controlled by some kind of power. After arriving at the demonic region, he immediately woke up. This was a man in his 20s or 30s. His appearance was relatively ordinary. Perhaps because he had just ascended to the upper realm, his strength was not too strong. If Jun Changxiao saw him, he would definitely not recognize him. After being stunned for a short while, the 10th person walked aimlessly along a road. However, after walking for an hour, a strong will suddenly came from afar, causing him to lose his mind instantly. He shouted in a low voice, ceiling platform. Ceiling platform. From this, it could be seen why the other 8 people who came in first appeared on the ceiling platform one after another. With their bodies as the driving force, they should be slowly controlled. Here came the question. Why was Yao Menjing fine? How could she still stay awake? How would he know? Patriarch. Yao Menjing said, what are we going to do next? Let me think about it. Jun Changshao sat cross-legged next to the ceiling platform. He closed his eyes and shook his 2 fingers on his head. He looked like he was possessed by Brother Shioga. The 8 innate fiend bodies had all gathered in Yao Menjing's body, so there was no need to worry about the seal being broken. The next thing to do was naturally, to destroy. What was the real danger of the demonic region? It was the large number of soldiers who were sealed. If the fiend ancestor resurrected and had any way to remove them, bringing them out would definitely cause a lot of trouble. So the best way was to destroy them in advance, or make them lose their combat power. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, let's go to other places to take a look. There were too many soldiers in the demonic region's main city, and there were also a few generals. They couldn't be released rashly. He planned to go to other cities to take a look. If he encountered those small ones, he could easily get rid of them. At first, Gosheng only took off their armor and equipment and didn't take their lives. It was a pity to kill so many reincarnation realm cultivators. However, he guessed the fiend ancestors' intention and didn't show any mercy. If they didn't die today, they would definitely become a threat in the future. Swish. Not long after, the stream of light appeared again. Jun Changshao said in surprise, why is someone trying to break the seal again? Let's go. Swish. Swish. The 2 of them rushed to the scene as fast as they could and saw the 10th person who was controlled standing on the ceiling platform. He was spitting out streams of light from his mouth. Who is this? Jun Changshao said, how did you get in? From Go Sheng's blank expression, the system was obviously disappointed. The 10th innate fiend body wasn't someone they knew. It was completely a passerby. Girl, I'll leave it to you. N. Yao Menjing was already prepared. When she saw the innate fiend body flying out, she hurriedly stopped it and began to fuse with it skillfully. As usual, Jun Changshao kicked the 10th person away, freeing him from the sacrificial state. Then, he lay on the ground and struggled in pain. Huff. 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 However, after fusing with the 9th innate fiend body, Yao Menjing's body surged with a majestic demonic aura. Even her black hair was blown up, and a bright red crescent moon pattern appeared on her forehead. Jun Changshao was stunned. He didn't see such a situation when fusing with the other 8. Swish. Swish. At this moment, 10 streams of black light shot out from Yao Menjing's body and gathered into a ball above her head, spinning continuously. I understand now. The system said, the innate fiend body was separated and gathered in one person's body. It should be recombining. Huff. 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 An even more explosive demonic aura emerged from Yao Menjing's body and gradually condensed into a huge black shadow. It stood proudly behind her like a killing god, and a sinister voice sounded, as long as heaven and earth exist, the demonic path will exist forever. Blood Pool Altar. The fiend ancestor, whose remnant soul existed in the ball, exclaimed, oh no, my 10 innate fiend bodies have been obtained by one person and are signing an eternal contract with him. Chapter 1520. What was the innate demon body? In fact, it was the 10 secondary physiques that were separated from the innate saint demon body. As the saying goes, scattered is a plate of sand, gathered is a flower. When the 10 innate demon bodies truly fused, it could be called the most complete innate saint demon body. So, the higher level physiques that Yao Menjing inherited in the land of demon fate were actually incomplete. Today, the 10 physiques were fused, and they were reunited in the true sense. However, the demon ancestor was about to cry. Back then, the purpose of separating the physique was firstly to remove the seal, and secondly, to summon the successor after his rebirth to obtain all the cultivation of the successor. Even the sacred body stored in the land of demon fate was part of the plan. Simply put, there was no need to worry about who inherited the demon body, because it would all return in the end. But now, before he was resurrected, the physiques had already fused and signed an eternal contract. What would he do after his resurrection? It must be that girl. The demon ancestor roared, she must be fusing with my innate saint demon body. No. The sacred body stored in the land of demon fate was also part of the plan. Why could the successor fuse with the 10 innate demon bodies? Did something happen? He guessed right. There was a change. This change was that when Yao Menjing fused with the innate saint demon body, there was Jun Changshao, and she experienced the demon qi entering her body. She even spent all 3 points to get out of danger. If Go Xing did not participate, no matter who inherited the innate saint demon body, the final result would be a sacrifice for the demon ancestor after his resurrection. However, this kind of thing would not happen to Yao Menjing, because under the power of Krypton, the fused innate saint demon body had fundamentally changed, and even completely fused with the body and soul. The previous owner of the physiques was the demon ancestor. Even if it was given to someone else, it would just be borrowing. Now, it had completely lost control. Therefore, after Yao Menjing came to the demon territory, not only did she not lose consciousness and destroy the seal, but she also treated this place as her home and easily fused with the 9 demon bodies. Time and fate. If the demon ancestor knew the truth, he would definitely vomit blood. The various plans that were set up 100,000 years ago had stumped the 10 immortal sects and the various clans, but in the end, it was all for someone else. Heaven and earth, demon Tao. In front of the 9th ceiling platform, the huge shadow let out a deep voice. Yao Menjing, sitting in front of it, also said, the crescent moon pattern on her forehead. It won't be dangerous, right? What Jun Changshao didn't know was that Yao Menjing was signing an eternal contract with the innate saint demon body. He was worried that something would happen to her, or that she would lose her mind and turn into a demoness. The system said, there shouldn't be any problems. Fuck. The system roared, can't you say something nasty at a time like this? Okay. As he wished, the system said, lose your mind and turn into a demon. Swish. Swish. At this moment, the 10 black energy balls that had gathered above Yao Menjing's head gradually returned to her body, and the huge shadow behind her gradually materialized. What the hell is this? Jun Changshao asked in surprise. The system said, it seems to be some kind of special creature. Who? The huge shadow gradually materialized. Because its entire body was black, it looked like an African. Swish. Suddenly, a bright red crescent moon pattern appeared on his forehead. Not only was it exactly the same as the one on Yao Menjing's forehead, but it was also flashing at the same frequency. Thud. At this moment, the big black man took a step back and knelt on one knee. He stretched out a palm and placed it behind Yao Menjing, looking very respectful. What do you mean? Don't ask me, I don't know. Jun Changshao and the system were in a state of confusion. Swish. Yao Menjing stood up and jumped onto the big palm behind her. Swish. Swish. The big black man raised his hand and put her on his shoulder. Yao Menjing put her right leg on her left leg, leaned forward, and rested her chin on her left hand. Her eyes glowed with a seductive luster, and a strong demonic aura burst out. Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. This girl was only a few years old when she first entered the sect. Although she was already an adult and looked very beautiful, she was a little silly because of her personality. Now that she was sitting on the big black man, she had turned from a natural silly girl to a cynical girl. Patriarch. Yao Menjing raised the corner of her mouth and said with a smile, this is my innate holy demon body, also known as the dark spirit. Since there were fire spirit, evil spirit, and so on in the world, it was not strange that there was also a dark spirit. But what puzzled Jun Changshao was how a spirit body could be a constitution. The system said, the host has two sons, which means that they control the power of fire spirit and evil spirit. There is nothing wrong with classifying them as constitutions. Okay. Jun Changshao understood a little. However, my two spirit bodies have just reached the juvenile stage, but this girl's spirit body is not only an adult, but also in its prime. The gap between them is too big. Swish. Yao Menjing jumped down, hiding the crescent moon on her forehead, and said with a smile, combining all the innate holy demon bodies has allowed me to break through to the truth-seeking realm. In the future, if you encounter danger, I will protect the patriarch. Jun Changxiao's expression became interesting. Before coming to the demonic territory, this girl was the junior sister that the disciples cared about the most. Now that she had broken through to the truth-seeking realm in such a short time, the situation became that everyone would rely on her protection in the future. Yao Menjing, who had combined 9 innate holy demon bodies, perfectly inherited the innate holy demon body, had the dark spirit, and also broke through to the truth-seeking realm. This tells us that when a disciple uses hacks, sometimes she is crazier than the patriarch, Go Sheng. Of course. He had to thank the demon ancestor. Without his 100,000 years of planning, there wouldn't be the great demon king today. Patriarch. Yao Menjing said with a smile, I can leave the demonic territory without destroying the seal. Do you want to go? Perhaps it was because she had perfectly inherited the spirit body and her cultivation had improved, but this girl's temperament was very demonic and mature, no longer as silly and cute as before. People would eventually grow up. You can't leave yet. Jun Changshao said, I want to destroy it. His disciple's benefit was not over yet. He had to get rid of the soldiers in the demonic territory. Swish. Swish. The two flew away from the ceiling platform and continued to look for the city. Because Yao Menjing's realm had improved, her speed had obviously surpassed Jun Changxiao's, which made him feel very gratified. After all, it must be the patriarch's credit that his disciple had become stronger. Not long after. The two of them stopped in the air above a small city. There was indeed a military camp nearby, and there were 10,000 soldiers sealed inside. Girl. Jun Changxiao said, unseal. He didn't care about such a small number of people at all. Yao Menjing landed in front of the platform and pressed the mark on the wall. Crack. 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 The stones on the 10,000 soldiers fell off, and they were also awakened from the sealed state. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand and summoned the green dragon crescent blade, his eyes flashing with fighting spirit and killing intent. Not only did he have to take away the equipment on these soldiers, but he also had to take away their lives, in case the demon ancestor revived and took them out to do evil. However, what Go Sheng did not expect was that after the 10,000 soldiers revived, they did not shout the word, kill, as usual. Instead, they put down their weapons, knelt on the ground, and shouted, greetings, my lord. Jun Changxiao was stunned, and stiffly turned his head to look at Yao Menjing who was kneeling down. The girl stuck out her tongue mischievously and said, Patriarch, these soldiers seem to be listening to my orders. Let them take off their armor. Take off your armor. Crack. Crack. The 10,000 soldiers did not hesitate to take off their armor. Let them put on their armor. Put on your armor. Crack. Crack. The 10,000 soldiers did not hesitate to put on their armor. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Tsk, 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 tsk. Suddenly, a strange laughter came from the military camp, causing the already gloomy atmosphere to become even more intense. Chapter 1521. Without a huge container to store living beings, Jun Changxiao could only choose to take the equipment and kill the demonic tribe soldiers to prevent future trouble. To be honest, his heart ached. After all, These were genuine first transformation reincarnation realm cultivators. God knows how many resources were used to cultivate them. Killing them like this would be a waste of resources. There was no other choice. For the sake of the world, he could only send them on their way. However, the fact that Yao Menjing could command the soldiers of the Wavy Devil tribe was so sudden that Jun Changshao was dumbfounded. Soon after, he could not help but laugh like a villain. If his disciple could control them, it meant that he could control them too. If he brought them back to the sect, who else in the world would he be afraid of? A reincarnation realm cultivator might be ordinary, but what about hundreds of thousands? Especially when there were still 300,000 in demonic tribe and 8 generals. If they were revived and obeyed his orders, he could easily lead an army to flatten the realm hall. He could totally go head-to-head with the 10 great celestial sects. Invincible. Jun Changshao covered his face and said, "My sect of all times is invincible." The system said, "This is the sect style, not the protagonist style." Host, please control your expression. Control my ass. Jun Changshao roared with a ferocious expression. With so many soldiers in hand, whoever dares to make an enemy of my sect of all times, I will crush their bones and scatter their ashes. Sigh. Crazy. Understandable. After ascending to the upper realm, going through the myriad tribulation lightning formation, being surrounded by the major tribes, and being schemed against by Empress Ling Yao and the others, Jun Changshao had been very depressed. He could not find the joy of sweeping across the falling star continent. Now that he had so many soldiers, what was there to be afraid of? I, Jun Changshao. From today onwards, I will be myself again. Who was himself? It was that little expert who did things his own way and killed anyone who bullied him with his fists. Hurry up and greet the patriarch. Yao Menjing glared at him. The soldiers who had just been revived were confused. However, they obeyed their master unconditionally and shouted, "Greetings, patriarch." Ka ka. Ka ka ka. In a military camp outside another city, tens of thousands of soldiers were unsealed. After sensing the powerful demonic energy emerging from Yao Menjing's body, they all knelt on the ground and shouted. As expected. Jun Changshao came to a realization and said, "This girl can really control them." In order to ensure that nothing would go wrong, he took Yao Menjing back to the city they had been to before and removed the isolation formation. The soldiers who had been stripped of their armor and weapons woke up and respectfully knelt on the ground. The system sighed, "With so many soldiers under your disciples' command, if they were to gather together, it would be a terrifying force." So, Jun Changshao grinned. What a great harvest. He had thought that he had struck it rich after obtaining so many battle armors and forging facilities in the demonic region. He had not expected Yao Menjing to break through to the truth-seeking realm and be able to control so many first transition soldiers. Awesome. It felt so good. Let's go. Jun Changshao said, "Let's go to the main city." After many tests, they had confirmed that Yao Menjing could command the demonic tribe soldiers. So, they would not let go of the real big fish. In the main city, Yao Menjing stood in front of the platform and placed her small hand on the engraving. Ka ka ka. The 300,000 soldiers all woke up from their petrified state. Then, they put down their weapons and knelt on the ground. Standing at the front, the generals wearing the second-generation battle armor also woke up. There was no demonic logo on their chest armor, but strange words. Very strong. The system said, "They are all of the truth-seeking realm." Jun Changshao clutched his chest, and his expression gradually twisted. He wanted to laugh crazily, but with so many people watching, he was afraid that he would lose his status as a patriarch, so he forced himself to suppress it. Hundreds of thousands of first transition soldiers and 8 truth-seeking realm soldiers. What reason did the sect of all times have to be afraid of the Jie Hall? What reason did they have to be afraid of any Xian Jindao sect? Jun Changshao did not bring the immortal sect because he knew that although he had many subordinates, he did not have enough top-notch strength. If he had a few peak truth-seeking realm cultivators, he would not be afraid at all. Swish! The leftmost general stepped out and bowed. Greetings, Master. Ghost General Ji Li greets my lord. Ghost General Wei pays his respects to my lord. Ghost General Wang pays his respects to my lord. The 8 of them bowed in order, which made Jun Changshao realize that if he combined the word ghost and the word ghost, wouldn't it represent Kue Chi Mei Lu Bai Bai Ba? This name was quite interesting. Cough. Yao Menjing stood on the stage, moistened her throat, and said, "Listen up, he is my patriarch. From now on, not only must you listen to me, but you must also listen to him." The girl's realm had increased, but her wings had not hardened. She still relied on Jun Changshao and still regarded him as a loved one. Go Sheng was very gratified. His disciple had become stronger and did not forget herself. Ghost 8 generals. Yao Menjing said, "How many soldiers are there in the demonic region?" Master. Gue Do replied, 1 million. 1 million. Plop. Jun Changshao suddenly fainted on the stage with a smile on his face. Obviously, in order to maintain his demeanor, he tried his best to hold back his laughter and passed out. Counting the 300,000 soldiers in the main city, they only found a total of 600,000, so there were still 400,000 scattered in the major cities. Thus, Yao Menjing led Ghost 8 generals to search one by one. Jun Changshao was placed in the main city's palace. In his coma, he had a dream. In the dream, he led a 1,000,000 demonic army to destroy the Imperial Sword Sect and the High Blade Sect. In the end, he stood proudly in the ruins of the World Hall and shouted, "The wind is blowing, the clouds are flying. Patriarch." Suddenly, a shout came from beside his ear. "Stop laughing, wake up." Jun Changshao opened his eyes. Seeing Yao Menjing standing beside him and shouting, his heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, "This girl can control the demonic army. Is it a dream?" The system said, "I hope it's a dream. I made the host happy for nothing." Yao Menjing smiled and said, "Patriarch, while you were unconscious, I have gathered 1,000,000 soldiers. They are waiting outside the palace. Do you want to go out and take a look?" "Look." "Of course." Jun Changshao hurriedly got up and walked out of the palace. On the wide platform below, there were tall and strong demonic army soldiers lined up neatly. As there were more than 1,000,000 of them and they occupied the entire inner and outer courtyards of the Forbidden Grounds, they were even lined up outside the palace. The scene was simply spectacular. "Salute!" Gue Do, one of the 8 generals, shouted. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 1,000,000 soldiers placed one hand on their left chest and shouted, "Jun Patriarch is wise and virtuous. He will benefit the common people and live as long as the heavens." Their voices were so loud that it shook the heavens. To be able to shout such words, it was obviously Yao Menjing who taught them. She was indeed the apple of Jun Changshao's eye. This style was simply his little cotton-padded jacket. Go Sheng, who was standing in front of the palace, suddenly felt like he had turned into the emperor. Therefore, he closed his eyes and listened to their shouts with enjoyment. The corner of his mouth gradually raised into a smile that only villains would have. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission, stealing people's beauty. The reward is 1,000,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, XXX. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden mission and triggering the hidden rewards. You have received Experience Talisman X5, Seal Opening Talisman, for X1, Soul Tempering Sacred Celestial Art X1. Chapter 1522. The demon ancestor's innate saint devil body was taken away by Yao Menjing, and the million devil army that he cultivated 100,000 years ago was controlled by her. What did this mean? It meant that Jun Changshao had helped the sect of all times. Therefore, he met the conditions of plundering and completed the hidden mission. The contribution points given were not much, only 1 million. For the contribution system that was about to collapse, it was not worth mentioning at all. Only the 4th generation of opening seal talisman was not bad. As a trump card that had not been used yet, even if it was not used in the future, it could be used to exchange for money. Jun Changshao was also happy to see the entire space ring stacked up. After all, one more meant one more layer of security. Typical, wishful thinking. Ding! Soul-tempering sacred heavenly art has been detected, automatically matching it with the Sect's cultivation technique. Soul-tempering sacred heavenly art. Jun Changshao merged into the space ring and held the yellowed secret manual in his hand. He immediately felt a strong historical aura, and said, "This should be quite powerful." Opening the front page and reading the detailed introduction, Gou Sheng was ecstatic. The soul-tempering sacred heavenly art was a martial art that strengthened the soul. Although the level was unknown, it was described that if one cultivated it to the peak, one's soul would be able to leave the body and soar into the sky. It's a bit similar to the Tianjun soul refining method. Jun Changshao muttered, but this time it's definitely higher. There were not many martial arts related to the soul in the sect of all times. Now that he could match the sect's cultivation technique, he would definitely copy it in large quantities and let the disciples have one each. Moreover, Gou Sheng had a very bold idea. If he cultivated the soul-tempering sacred heavenly art to the extreme and achieved the out-of-body state, would he be able to pilot the Diablo? Although the mech was very strong, if it encountered a strong enemy, it would definitely die. If he used his soul to control it instead of his body, even if it exploded, it would not endanger his disciple's life. The system was speechless. The host is planning to study the mech, can't I? Jun Changshao asked. The system said, first of all, the technology doesn't support it. This is not my problem, this is the problem of the Taishian Elder and the Array Hall. Jun Changshao said indifferently, I am only responsible for coming up with the idea, they will solve the technical problems. Well done. Before the first toolman, Master Fan, could cry himself unconscious in the toilet, the second toolman had already been arranged. The sect of all times really doesn't keep idlers around. In fact, Jun Changshao wanted to control Diablo with his soul for the sake of his disciples. After all, they were all his favorite disciples, and he couldn't bear to see them sacrifice themselves in the future. Patriarch, are you going back? Yao Menjing asked. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, since the fiend ancestor has created a 1,000,000-strong army, he must have prepared plenty of resources. Before the troops and horses were mobilized, the rations and fodder had to be mobilized first. He really did not believe that there were no valuable things hidden in the vast demonic domain, such as mystical stones, ores, crystal cores and so on. Girl, ask Ghost 8 generals. All right. Yao Menjing looked at Gue Do and asked, are there any supplies? Yes, master. Rumble. In a tunnel under the palace of the main city, the stone door blocking the road gradually opened. Strictly speaking, this was the treasury of the demonic tribe. As it was protected by layers upon layers of formations, it would be difficult to find it without a guide. Calm down. I have to calm down. Jun Changshao walked in as he thought to himself. The treasury of the demonic tribe must have countless treasures, so he had to work hard to control his emotions so that he would not pass out in embarrassment. The system sighed and said, if the fiend ancestor revives and knows that everything has been taken away by the host, he will probably die on the spot. Inside the stone door was a huge palace, and the floor was very luxurious. This made Jun Changshao even more excited. But after he entered, his expression suddenly became sluggish. There was no mountain of mystical stones and treasures as he imagined, nor was there a dazzling sight. There were only scattered ores, which added up to less than 50 kilograms. This, Jun Changshao broke down and said, this is the treasury. Gue Do said, 100,000 years ago, the demonic tribe used all the resources to build the army. Jun Changshao broke down. It seemed that he was happy for nothing. Jun Changshao's eyes locked on the shelf at the side of the palace, and found that there were many books on it, so he said happily, are all the martial arts of the demonic tribe here? Yes. Gue Do said. 100,000 years ago, he and the other 7 generals would definitely listen to the fiend ancestor. Now that they have revived, they would definitely listen to Yao Menjing. There was no other reason, whoever had the complete innate saint demonic body would be their boss. This is not bad. Jun Changshao walked over and flipped open a book. It was written in the language of the demonic tribe that he could not understand, so he kept it in his spatial ring and said, System, if you have time, translate these secret manuals into simplified Chinese for me. Fuck. The system roared, I am not a tool. There were many secret manuals stored on the shelf. Since they were stored in the treasury, their level and quality should be extraordinary. He could take them to Yao Menjing for cultivation, and those that he did not need could be exchanged at the Technique Pavilion. Jun Changshao took them all without hesitation. However, in the process, he found a book that was different from other martial skills because it outlined the pattern of medicinal herbs. A secret manual related to medicinal pills? Jun Changshao asked. The system said, yes. Jun Changshao curiously turned to the first page and said, translate the content for me. The system tool came online and after a short period of cracking, it said, this is a pill recipe that has been passed down for a long time. It came from the ancestors of the demonic tribe. There is only one pill recipe recorded in it. One pill. Jun Changshao was very disappointed. The system said, host, please take a deep breath and relax your mind. Why? Don't ask so many questions, hurry up. Huff. Jun Changshao took a deep breath. The system said, the pill recipe is called First Transformation Quick Pill. After taking it, the user can instantly break through from the void-piercing realm to the First Transformation Core realm. After hearing this, Jun Changshao said indifferently, that's it? That's it. Plop. Jun Changshao's eyes rolled back and he fainted on the ground in an enchanting posture. Sigh. The system said, I should have let him take a few more breaths. It was useless. Even if he breathed for an entire day, Jun Changshao would still faint. After all, a pill that could instantly break through to the First Transformation Core realm was too explosive and too exaggerated. Master. Gue Do said weakly, Jun Patriarch has fainted again. Yao Menjing said calmly, it's normal. Carry him back. In fact, after discovering that the sealed soldier had the strength of the first transformation, Jun Changshao had thought that the demonic tribe's talent was too outstanding. Now, the case was solved. It was not because their genes were outstanding, but because they had a pill that could raise one's realm. Fuck. After waking up, Jun Changshao sat on the throne in the palace with his right leg crossed over his left leg. His left leg kept shaking as he said proudly, if I can refine it, the Sect's disciples will definitely be able to easily complete their first transformation. Host, you can't refine it. The system poured cold water on him in a timely manner. The ingredients needed to refine the first transformation quick pill are all extremely toxic. Regular martial artists will immediately die after taking it, so it's only suitable for the demonic tribe. It's fine. Jun Changshao clasped his fingers and said, this is not my problem. This is the problem of the medical hall and the pill hall. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.